Also move.
Right, I will second, and all in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No, so that passes. Moving on to closed session. We have negotiations, number one, with collective bargaining, session planning and preparation with PGTA. Number two, negotiations with CSEA. Number three, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, leave, complaint, code 54957. And number four, superintendent evaluation. Below that, any issues relating to that? Seeing none, we move forward to any public comment on closed session topics. Anyone online? No one, and seeing no one in the room. So unless there's anything else, we can now move on to closed session.
Do you want to mention?
What's that?
I don't be live streaming.
Yes, yeah, and I should note too, for the remainder of this meeting, we will be live streaming the entire session. We've done it differently in the past, but this, from beginning to end, this entire session will be live streamed, right?
That is the plan, yes, and there's been discussion on it, then, yep. That is correct. On the agenda this evening, we didn't specify it one way or the other, so it definitely is intended to be live streamed all the way through to the end. Correct.
Yeah, it's been a little weird in the past when we've done these things as to how we do it, but you know, after we talked about it earlier today and through this last week too, it's like the idea is to keep these things as visible to the public as possible, whether we're, you know, talking about really wide reaching or, you know, issues or the granular elements of it, but it's like we're going to keep these open to the public so everyone has an opportunity to chime in, and in the interest of transparency. So okay, so knowing that, we're going to now move.
I have a question. So we're live streaming, but this will also be available on recording for public to access at a later date as well. Okay, just want to clarify.
Yep. Okay, so are we okay now to move into closed session?
Yep.
And into, there we go. Nothing given. Same for number 2 and number 3 and number 4. Information was given. Is there any public comment on closed session topics? No, we already did that. So I'm sorry. We're now moving into Pledge of Allegiance. Right. So unless, I'm sorry. No, yes, Pledge of Allegiance. So I'm going to lead us here to the back of the room. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance. Flag, the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now moving on to information discussion. Board governance training and self-evaluation. This is it's a little weird. So where we begin really with this is all of us talking about, you know, how we make this better and how we process the roles that we do. It might take a while. It is not a Q&A. I want to go out with that right away to let everybody know that it is not a Q&A. So we're going to be doing this exercise as we try to navigate the all these different procedures. Once we're done with that, then we open it up to public comment and then any additional board discussion and then any direction that's given. So it might take a while. But with that said, I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Adamson, and I think ultimately to Lou and Eric to guide us through this.
Yes, thank you, President Swanson. So this is exactly as the item indicates. It is a governance board training session. This is actually the third this year that we will be engaging in. We're very fortunate to be working with Lou Lozano and Eric Andrew for this training. And really it's, this allows us this opportunity to really just continue and extend the training that we have already completed. And I know the focus this evening is going to be very much on our governance handbook. And so it's really my pleasure to be able to hand it over to their very capable hands. And we're very pleased to have you here this evening.
Yeah, tonight, as Linda and Brian have said, we're going to go through the governance handbook and think of it as a commitment you are making to each other on how you're going to operate in your board meetings, how you're going to operate as a board member, et cetera. But before we do that, are there any pebbles in the shoe that we should be putting on the table and talking about?
I have a pebble in my shoe. I definitely today want to cover, oh, sorry. I have a pebble in my shoe. I'll say it again. I would like to spend some time tonight talking about one-on-ones, trustee one-on-ones with the superintendent, how that is set up, how we're going about having the one-on-ones, the amount of time that's being spent on one-on-ones. So I'd like to delve into that further when that topic comes up. And also trustees having access to different members of staff and that type of thing.
I'm going to throw in there too about how, especially recently, we've had a lot of public comment on our sex ed curriculum and how we manage that and just it's again how we manage that, because it's like it's been difficult, I think, for us as a board to address some of these issues that come up from one or two people in our community when they don't necessarily represent the community at large. I think the community at large sometimes is quite happy with what we're doing. And how do we manage these voices, kind of outside voices, sometimes voices that are voices that don't even have children in our district? And how do we address those issues when it comes to the curriculum that we're presenting? So I want to throw that into the broader mix too.
Brian, may I ask, is this, if I was to take the term sex ed out of it, is this any issue that may come up in which an outside person brings to the board?
Yeah, I think it could be, it's not just sex ed, it could be science ed, it could be anything, right? It's like, so who has control over curriculum in our district, really? It's like, I think that's something that we need to talk about. Who really decides what we're teaching our kids, and to drill right down to it, just because you might be a taxpayer, does that give you control over what we're teaching our kids? I want to talk about that.
And if I could, what are you gonna say? Sorry.
I was just, if you don't mind, and I was just going to add the difference between somebody that is coming repeatedly for public comment versus us even contemplating shifting our curriculum based off of public comment of two people in the community. I think that's something else to take into consideration.
And this is my pebble, similar, but different size, different toe it's sitting under maybe, but would be on the communication side of it. Because it's one thing I have a really hard time with when I feel like there is a narrative out there and the district is not providing their own narrative. And I know there's a balance, right? We don't want everybody to be saying like, okay, you know, this person who lives 3 towns over said that they saw a strange car parked outside of the district office, and now we have to issue a statement. But I think especially when it starts going to the level of local news, do we need to have, when is the time to have district statements? And that might be something, this might be the comms audit, it might be something that we can push to later. I'm fine to do that, but I think that's something that's important to me to discuss regarding.
I know that something that's come up on some of these topics already has just been, sometimes you'll be all copied on the same email, but other times you'll each be receiving your own separate emails. And so I think the whole unity of purpose in how you respond and having, identifying what our protocols are for, who responds to, if it's a group message or if it is individual, to be sure that, it's one message that's going out from the board. I think that, okay.
Okay, we have until 10 o'clock tonight, and we will we will go as long as everyone's awake. Some of these issues I think we can deal with in the handbook. They're going to come up. Others, we'll have to defer them to a later time because there's just not enough time to deal with all those issues. And going through the handbook, I've done this in other districts. It can be tedious where we go page by page and we're saying, each board member says, I can live with everything on this page, or I can't live with that, or I'd like to change this and for these reasons. But think of this, your handbook, as your operational guide, how you're going to be with each other and how you're going to run the board and how you're going to be out there in the community, how you're going to be with staff. It's very comprehensive. And I spent some time this afternoon looking at it. It's pretty common, pretty typical. Your handbook doesn't have anything that's terribly unusual, but it's your handbook and you need to make it personal for you and how you want to operate. And each one is actually tailored to the unique needs of each district, although there is a basic theme throughout, some of which is guided by law, but others are just operational needs that you have. So.
And that's important because keeping in mind,
Mike.
oh, sorry. That's important because keeping in mind that your board policy and your handbook are overall guidelines. It's considered like a board policy and an AR. Our purpose tonight is not necessarily to create ARs. It's to look at the broad guidelines to say, yes, we can live with this, or it needs to be tweaked here. But we're not going to get into the nuts and bolts of what that actually means per se. Otherwise, we will not get through the entire handbook.
The handbook portion is about 15 pages, but then you have addendums and bylaws and references. And the critical thing, I think, is that 15 pages of handbook. We did spend a little bit of time on your norms, and we'll go through that. But let's jump into this now and get it going.
I feel stuffy. Are you guys breathing? You are breathing.
No, that'd be great. It's a little,
Freezing.
No, I
I'm
can-
feeling
no.
stuffy.
It's a little
I was gonna-
stuffy.
It is stuffy.
It is stuffy.
Wouldn't
Okay,
ma-
it's fine.
yeah.
Wouldn't mind a little air.
Two cross. Oh, thank you, Matt.
What are we looking at right now?
we're each have a copy of
Mhm.
this document.
Got it. Yes. Okay.
You each have a copy of the 10 norms that we established.
Yep.
These are the priorities, and at the top of the list when we get to the norm. We will get to it. I think going through the handbook, we get through the first 15 pages. And people saying, yes, I can commit to my colleagues on this board that I will do all the things on this page. That's what our goal is. Okay. All right. So the cover page I've just updated with the current trustees and I'm going to skip the table of contents and just go to the substance. So,
Preamble.
okay, I'll put it up here, even though you all have a copy. I'm going to make it larger for those at home who can read and those who want to see it on the screen. I don't know how I get rid of the banner on the. Okay. All right, all of you can read, and I'll let you read this portion and see if there is anything in here that we need to discuss, that you want to modify in any way.
How's everybody?
Does anybody got any questions, any concerns? The preamble's okay.
No, I just want to jump out on one thing. It's like, impartial. I think it's to the best of our abilities. I mean, I think it's really difficult for people to be impartial. I mean, when you think about all of our experiences, it's very hard for us to be impartial. And I think it's important for us to recognize that it is difficult for us to be impartial. Also,
Human level.
I've been on the board for 8 years, going on 9, and I've never done Masters of Governance. I just never got there. So there's that. Sorry.
You know, feeling on your point about impartial, I would say we are all biased, but we should work towards being impartial. I
Yeah.
mean, not that we need to change it, but I agree with your point that acknowledging a bias is
Yeah.
important
It's
when
like
you step into
we
it.
all bring that, I think, and but just to recognize that.
Although this is more of an aspiration for government. Okay. Okay. No changes here. Let's move on to the next page, which is our public service commitment. I think I would suggest that we change the reference to he, she's to either they
Yes.
or we make it a she
I would
because
make
the
it a
current
she.
superintendent is a she.
Yeah, if we have our
And
board listed on the first page, I would say, oh, superintendent should be she throughout the
Yeah.
bylaws, unless anyone disagrees. Because it is a snapshot in time that I know will continue on.
Correct, you're right.
Mhm.
You're right. Mhm.
Okay. Eh, has everybody had a chance can we commit to these 2 paragraphs?
Oh, yes, the top two.
Yes.
Our commitments and obligations. Let's just take one at a time. Unity of purpose, is there any issue with that? Oh, okay. Our governance team's unity of purpose, is there anything that we need to talk about here?
I'll be honest, I don't love referencing another document because if that other document changes, so I would love it if we could pull out from that, but I don't think that might not be the best use of our time tonight.
I agree, Elliot. Maybe we could just ask for there to be like a search and delete of the entire document afterwards, that we just don't need to be referencing. Like, we know this, the skeleton of this came from CSBA, but we don't need to be constantly talking about it.
What if we put a period after policy?
Mhm.
Okay.
This may be for the next section, but I'll mention it here. So I don't know if it's important to emphasize unity. Is I think straight from the front, the point needs to be made again that we are a board, not individuals. So when we get into the governance role and responsibilities, it does say the Board of Trustees. But if you read it out of, anyway, I'll just say, I don't know if we want to put that here. Our unity is accomplished our mission, maybe let me actually save it for the next section and we can decide if it goes back
Okay.
up above.
Okay,
Sorry,
okay.
I'm thinking on the fly.
okay. And we'll get to the appendix and later on. Okay, our roles and responsibilities.
Okay, now I can say what I was saying.
Yeah.
Just that basically, if you read like number 3, I think that could be implied that that's as an individual, I'm providing support, but I think the real intent is as a board, we are providing support. And so I don't know if we want to say that in front of every number. As a board, we're setting direction. As a board, we're establishing, or we just want to make it very clear that this is the role of the board, not the role of individual trustees.
You might be able to accomplish that in the little 2-line paragraph above where it says the Board of Trustees, and you could put a comma, not as individuals.
Yeah,
And then you won't have to put it.
yeah.
A lot of head nods.
Okay. How about board
Individual trustees.
as a united group?
I don't really like
Not as
united
individuals?
because it puts
Yeah.
pressure that like if we're not all voting the same, then somehow we're not
What was
being
what was the
united.
phrase? Yes, I would agree with that. What was the phrase again?
I mean, that would be the Board of Trustees as a whole. Or as a sum of its parts. Or, yeah.
Hmm.
Do you think that's more clear than the Board of Trustees, or not as individual trustees, are to ensure
No,
that the
I
school
think that's,
district-
I just think we should even be more explicit, like the Board of,
Okay.
like, 'cause the thing is. Yeah, I don't know. Definitely in the nitpicky territory, but I do think it's important to say as a whole somewhere, for each one of these things.
You could bold that.
Trustees, not the individual. I think it's important to specify it.
And I think we're talking about the board direction, aren't we? It's like. And it gets sticky quickly.
I mean,
Right,
3 and
but-
5 worry me the most, is I would read 5, be like, oh, great, I'm gonna go out and meet with every parent I can to make sure I'm providing that community leadership and I'm doing, the best, but
How
that's not the role.
Board of Trustees as the governing body.
I like that.
There you go.
That's good. As
a
Yeah.
governing
body.
And I like the idea of adding not as individuals. I mean, I think we want to hit this over the head as many times as possible.
I like that.
Yeah, well, following on trustee Carolyn's suggestion.
Go through the numbers. Setting the direction for the district. Setting the direction for the district through a process that involves the community. Parents, guardians, students, and staff, and is focused on student learning and achievement. No issue? Okay.
Yep.
Number two, establishing an effective and efficient organizational structure for this district. No issue. Providing support to the superintendent and staff as they carry out the board's direction. Everybody
good?
up?
Yep.
Okay. Ensuring accountability to the public for the performance of the district's schools. Thumbs up?
Yep, good.
Good. Providing a community leadership and advocacy on behalf of students, the district's educational program, and public education in order to build support within the local community and at the state and national levels.
Jump in here for a second on that. Especially in light of some of the things that we're facing right now, community leadership and advocacy on behalf of students. It seems to me like I'd like for us to lean more into the parents than the community at large when it comes to what we are advocating for the students. But I'm throwing it out there to the rest of the board too. It's like, and we've seen it, right? So just because you're a taxpayer, and God bless the taxpayers of our community, but are we going to allow our taxpayers to dictate what happens with our students? It's like, what about our parents? And whose voice? Because sometimes parents are just fine with what's going on. And sometimes there's somebody who's not a parent of a student in our district who's speaking very loudly about what our curriculum might be. How do we address that? Is there a way that we should, and I'm just suggesting that we look at this, is there a way that we maybe address this in a way that kind of redefines this number 5 part?
So one quick thing, just because I think I read it differently, because I don't think that we're taking community input, we're providing it.
Okay.
We're providing the community leadership and advocacy on behalf of students.
Okay.
So I'm okay with this as it's written, but I think I do want to revisit that point as it comes
So
up
we
later.
can bring that back up
Yeah,
as
but
we go through it.
The only one I would say that I was thinking about, and again, I think this might be too high level to put it, would be on behalf of like student learning and safety or student. I mean, but I think we get to that with when we start talking about the hierarchy and all that, in the details. So I'm happy with as written. Does that,
Yeah, I get that.
because I
Anybody else?
initially
Any
read that.
Thoughts about that? I get that though. Thank you.
I have a pause for 5. I don't like the beginning of it, providing community leadership. I would say that that's not our space. We can sit at the board meeting and we can provide direction for the superintendent, but going out into the community and providing leadership, sort of, to me, it sounds like we're going out and we're, I don't know how you would do that outside of a board meeting. It just sounds a little,
And maybe that's the
Off to me.
guardrails though, is to stay at board meeting. I mean, that's the role, that's the way I read it.
but how are we providing community leadership?
When we make a decision about whether to pass a bond or whether to go to ABM or do like that, that's community. I mean, I would argue that is community leadership.
Okay,
But
I guess it could
but I
be
think
taken
we
a
added-
couple different ways
But
there.
that's what I was wondering, if we added like at the board meetings. 'cause
At board meetings,
That's where
I
it's
would like
happening,
it
right?
to be specific, because this to me sounds like we're out in the community providing leadership and advocacy on behalf of students. I feel like that almost, even though it says as the governing body, it sort of assumes that, to me, reading that, somebody's out and about in the community, advocating and providing leadership. So
What happens if you just take the word community out?
Yeah.
I like that, providing leadership and, yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that work for everybody?
It works for me if it works for everybody
Right.
else.
There you
Okay
go.
with that?
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Anybody else on that?
Was everybody okay with that? I didn't.
Yes, there's a couple things I heard in the course of that discussion, which is why I'm so thankful that we're here talking about all this. That gave me pause. I don't know how to say it exactly, but respectfully, I think we should be careful in saying that we don't want input from the community, or that we just want to reach out to parents, because somebody could very easily say, well, then the board members should only be parents. And so if someone is on the board who doesn't have kids in the district, then why are they making decisions? I don't think that that's a valid argument, but we have to realize that when we're kind of saying that, that's can go down that slope. And I think that there's such value in having board members from all different groups in the community. And I think that input from the community is valuable from all groups, including folks who don't have kids in the district. So I just want us to consider that. And then, I've seen on a different topic, I've seen boards really kind of take on advocacy at like state, national, but also local levels. And I think we're in a bit of a closed loop system in our district and haven't really done that, but that kind of tightening this down makes me a little sad that that we're actually not being more open to saying like, hey, maybe we want to go to Sacramento in a van and advocate for full funding for schools as a board, or whatever trustees can make it. Maybe we want to attend certain events throughout the district and beyond, because we are all connected. So we're not just PG in this area. So I'm fine with community in there. It is, from my understanding, part of our role is to be number one, accessible to the community. And number two, to connect the community in that accessibility essentially to Linda. So that's the kind of community leadership that I see and I would want to retain in this document. I think it's good that we're clarifying like what we all think about this.
Just another point, it does still come up directly in the end of the sentence, right? So it does say within the local community and at the state and national level. So I think we keep those. It's just otherwise I think our leadership is potentially broader than just community leadership. So
What's broader than that though? You think that taking out community makes it broader?
From the first community, yes, not the second.
Okay.
We're saying we're providing leadership and advocacy on behalf of students. That to me is
That's our prime focus.
that is our prime focus. That is I think that is a very nice, concise. But then the point you raised to me is to build support within the local community, which we now have a group working with the city. So I agree, that is an important part. And at the state and national levels, which covers the van driving to Sacramento, which I also agree we should be encouraging.
And that is part of the advocacy,
Mhm.
because I would agree with you. I know some districts do that.
Yeah.
They take your board and community members to the Capitol and working with your local elected officials, they can actually help support that. So I think, to your point, Elliot, that it is there in the local community, build support within the local community, I think does support the community, includes them.
I think it's all the same, but if deleting that first community makes it clearer, then
I just think it prevents it from being a slippery slope that somebody could go out and speak for the district on their own in the community with the idea that they're providing community leadership. And so I just want to make sure that that's not in there. I don't want to give any opening for anybody to inadvertently or advertently speak on behalf of the board as an individual in the community, or give the appearance that they're speaking on behalf of the board.
okay, I'm kind of confused by that, but if it makes sense to the four of you, then I'm
What's
fine
confusing?
moving on.
I'm so sorry.
I still don't understand why we're taking out providing community leadership when the whole sentence is about providing community leadership, it
It's
seems.
not actually about providing, the whole sentence is not about providing community leadership. The second part of the sentence says to build support within the local community and at the state and national levels. It's not saying that it's providing specifically community leadership. We can provide leadership and advocacy on behalf of the students, but by saying providing community leadership, I think that that could allow a trustee potentially to go out into the community and provide leadership, speaking on behalf of the board or giving the appearance that they're speaking on behalf of the board in the name of leadership in the community. So I just want to avoid that if possible. by
I think
removing
if
that first.
4 out of 5 of us agree, then I'm fine with it.
I hear what you're saying, Laura, but I think as electeds or appointed in lieu, like it's our job to be leaders in the community and to, if someone stops us in the grocery store, accurately reflect a decision we made or the unity of the board on whatever issue. Because some of our job is helping when we interact with people in the community as leaders, as people who do have the knowledge, because we're intimately familiar with this lovely district, to be able to kind of combat some of the misinformation that others are concerned about, or at least provide accurate information or align to Linda. And to me, that's kind of what embodies the community leadership piece. It's not the board, just the boardroom. It's like, it's all the other interactions as well. So I'm not, I guess I trust that when we all speak in a setting other than our boardroom, that we're all doing our best to say things we've all agreed on, or, you know, say, I don't know the answer to that and I'll get you new information, rather than act as an individual, kind of going rogue. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
All right, so if 3 to 2 agree, then,
Well, she didn't say that, but okay.
well, it sounds like
3
he
to
does.
2
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
all
3 to
right.
2.
Yeah. Perfect.
for the vote.
Yeah, I don't think it's a vote.
So I
So,
don't,
yeah.
yeah, I don't think.
So at what point, if I'm kind of just done saying my piece and I just don't feel like there's anything else I can say, do you want me, I mean, I don't want to say I don't care, because I do care, but I just don't have, I don't have anything further to say on it, so.
I think it's important that each of you, this is a commitment you're making to each other. And if you say, if one board member says, that's a commitment I can't make, then it's a commitment that is not made. You can't force a person to make commitments, okay? So if you said, this is something I can live with, that is reasonable, that's fine. It may not be your favorite, but you can live with it. So it's really, this is your book. And when we complete the changes, you're each gonna sign off and say, I'm committing to doing the things in this manual, in this handbook.
And if I could just add, I mean, I want to make it very clear, we're not removing community from this because it's in the paragraph above, which says priorities of communities. Number 1 is community. And again, 5 still has that, but I think that I don't see anywhere else in here that is focused as much, because on the students. And that's where I think there's just a general leadership and advocacy on behalf of the students that is needed. And like I said, to me, that's a higher level than just community leadership. That's a subtask of leadership to me.
Would you say that it's because you feel like our leadership only should be happening in the boardroom?
No, because I mean, attending graduations is a
That's
great
what I'm
example.
saying, like, we're out in the
But that is
community,
to
so.
me, that is leadership and advocacy on behalf of the students. It doesn't have to be community leadership. Community leadership to me is a subset of the broader leadership.
We're gonna get later on into who speaks for the board and what's the role of each board member. And how do you handle that? This piece, in terms of, from a legal perspective, it's a commitment that you recognize that you are leaders. And your role here is to be a leader and advocate for education.
And that's what I feel this says in its original form, so I'm not sure why we're changing. It's confusing to me why we're changing. I don't see the difference.
Okay.
So I guess I would say I can live with it, because
You just say you can live with it, or?
I can live with it.
Okay,
Yeah,
All right.
I just,
let's,
Just not a big deal.
So Carol, you can live with or without, you can live with losing community?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I'm
I'm-
fine. I'm gonna say it. You push me to it. I don't care. Take out
Fine,
community.
yeah, that community. I'm actually fine with community.
I'm fine with
because-
it too.
Because I really like the idea of sometimes as much as it can be really difficult at times, bringing in the community, it's like, but that's what we're supposed to do, right? It's like, we're supposed to bring in the community. And sometimes, it's like from left field, but that's okay too. And that is, and part of our job too is to educate the community, whether they're at every board meeting or at one out of every 40 board meetings, to bring them into the loop too. And so I'm actually totally fine with community being, it's one word and we're on page 4 and I'm okay with it.
Where I'm at too, yeah.
Yeah, and the reality is, as school board members. you are-
Right.
It is, it is.
Tough cookies.
I would be happy.
significant.
Okay, here's a minor change that might be a compromise, providing leadership and advocacy on behalf of students in the community or in the boardroom and community.
Why
I-
would we hash that out? I
Okay.
mean, just, I would say just leave it. I'm comfortable just leaving it. If it's very important to the majority outside of myself, then I'm fine with taking it out.
I would like to remove it, and I'm not comfortable living with it as it sits.
Okay?
My issue is more grammatical. I hate to say that, but it's more grammatical than anything.
Well, I'm
That's
not
what I
gonna
do for a
die on
job.
that hill.
neither.
How do you live with taking the word
I can-
community,
yes.
This first community out.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Sure.
okay.
Sure.
We're gonna move.
All right. Okay,
Not to
page
hill that
5.
I'm-
What are the wrong issues we will be talking about?
Well said.
The board carries out these responsibilities. Board carries out these responsibilities in each of the following domains, and it simply lists the areas that you are carrying out these responsibilities.
This makes sense to me.
Does safety need to be on there since it's risen in our LCAP or no? If not, that's fine. I just want to throw that out.
We can certainly add.
No
Yeah.
changes, just some reminders more than anything. It's like board members have no individual authority. Board members hold the education of
Oh, we're up
students,
here, I think.
right?
On the,
Sorry.
we're on
All
the, on the.
right. We're not there
yeah.
yet. All right, we're gonna get there.
Elliot
We're gonna get
suggested
there.
adding the word safety.
Yeah, what do you guys think about
I'm
that?
pushing forward.
I love the idea.
Okay.
Adding
All right.
safety?
I'll shut
Safety?
it.
So it looks like
And-
adding safety is a go?
And maybe we,
Good.
is there anything else we missed, Linda, like from the LCAP?
That's what I'm trying to think back to. SEL comes out again, social emotional.
Emotional learning, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of part of safety, but I think it deserves its own
We might
call
wanna
out.
call it out, yeah.
I like that.
So the LCAP was educational programming, educational support, equity multiplier.
Is it part of student learning and achievement?
That's the
Yeah.
question.
It's relied upon for student learning.
LCAP, we have it as 2 separate goals. We'll say that.
Like an academic goal and then the SEL goal.
They're not in any particular order.
No.
No.
No, not at all.
In fact, I could put it in order of alphabetical order.
That'd be great.
Be
Okay.
bad, right?
Although
Although I
I
still
like
want-
students
I
on
would-
front.
Only because the only thing I don't like about that is it pushes
Oh, it
Like
does.
the bargaining to the front.
achievement
Yeah.
way down.
Finance, not the top,
That's right. Collective bargaining.
Right, collective bargaining.
Bargaining is at the
Right,
top.
yes.
Okay, so
like
that's a
that.
bad idea.
How about social, emotional, and physical safety?
I like that. So that way it's all in one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I realize it doesn't tie one for one back, but that's,
Wow.
okay.
Social, emotional and.
So this is what I do for my job. I do editing all the time, so.
But for the ocean.
And people that use the ocean.
Bargaining.
I like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Does that,
Funny.
does that capture it, Elliot?
Yeah.
Yep.
I like
Okay.
that.
Great. All right, limits of
Oh,
board
but we
member
also-
authority. Here-
Wait, is this also where we should be listing that we hire, fire and evaluate the superintendent or no?
No,
That's
that's
later?
elsewhere. Well, this is the places where you, human resources would be
Yeah,
included.
that'd be that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good
Live
point,
with
though.
that.
Okay. Limits of board member authority. Okay.
Okay.
Here we are, Brian.
Wow.
Lead us.
Yay.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
yes, and
I'm gonna let you read this to yourselves and then we're gonna have a conversation about it. We'll take each bullet separately. See. Is anybody concerned about the first paragraph, the introductory paragraph? No? Brian? Laura? Okay, good. We're making progress. Second paragraph. It's just the preamble to the bullets. Are we okay with the preamble to the bullets?
Yes.
Okay, good. First bullet.
that's the board is the unit of authority over the district, right?
Yes.
It's good.
Okay. Second bullet.
Fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Dare I say I'm fine with all of them? Does anybody else feel?
No issues.
Guess
No.
who's raising her hand?
Laura.
Okay,
I actually
thank
just
you,
had a
Laura.
question about the two bullets. Board members who visit schools have no more authority than any other citizen.
Mhm.
And then skip down to a board member whose child is attending a district school is aware of his or her role as a board member when interacting with district employees. I understand it, but I guess, and then that the board member informs the superintendent or designee before volunteering in his or her child's classroom. I was not aware of that, and I've been volunteering in my kid's classroom. So if we have no more authority, I guess I'm confused on why we would need permission to go into volunteer. Or not permission, but to inform. So it sort of seems like it's.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's yeah, it's information versus authority.
Mhm.
So it's just keeping the superintendent informed.
Okay,
I think
I
there's,
volunteer.
yeah, there's value
It
because
doesn't impact. She's not approving it.
Yeah.
You're just
Sure.
simply telling.
Okay, it just seemed a little
Yeah.
bit like it was counterintuitive from one to the next.
Right, and I think the thought is if you show up and they see you in the school,
Mhm.
the principal doesn't hear from a teacher, why is Laura here? And then they, it starts a chain, but if Linda knows, then she can even say, hey, just so you know.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense to me. And like not wearing our staff badge and.
no,
Right,
but you're still Laura Otmore board member, so people seeing you on campus might
Yeah.
be like, the trustee was here, not necessarily that you were just there to
Yeah.
volunteer in your classroom, but you were on campus, and if anything
I
happened
skip
that
a
school
lot,
that
so they
day,
probably like.
then yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
so my only issue, and is a question, a legalese question actually for Lou and Jen. Is the elected or appointed to the board? Do we need that? It doesn't, I'm thinking of the situation where Frank was appointed. It was a board election,
We were appointed too in lieu of
in lieu
election.
of election. So should that say elected or appointed to the board?
It should,
It's clear. Yeah.
because it goes on to say appointed to the board, but has not yet assumed office.
Yeah,
And so I think that's really important because sometimes when you're appointed in lieu of election, it's important for you to know that you're beholden to the Brown Act.
Yeah.
That's what that one means to me.
so it should be consistent in the last two bullet points, who is elected or appointed, and then the last bullet point, board members and persons elected or appointed to the board. Yeah,
I can see that the wording doesn't capture the intent here.
okay,
When a person is appointed, they're immediately on the board. So they're on the board. But when a person is elected, there's a time period that passes
Right.
before they're sworn in and take office. The Brown Act applies to those people.
But what about the
So, yeah.
They're not
Elliot
together.
and I both had uncontested elections.
Right.
So
We're
we
technically elected.
knew that we were gonna be on the board by August of last year, which meant
Yeah.
my understanding from reading of the Brown Act, and please correct me, is that once I knew I was a seat holder or I was going to assume office, then the Brown Act applies to me. So whether that was like because a vacancy came up or because there were uncontested elections, we're still sitting in the appointed and waiting to assume office chair. So Brown Act does apply?
Does apply,
Okay,
correct. The Brown Act does apply to people who are elected before they're sworn in and take office.
yeah, or appointed without
A
a,
person who's
contest.
appointed, you have a vacancy on the board and you appoint somebody to fill that vacancy. The moment you make that appointment, they're on the board.
that makes sense.
So there's no gap.
Yeah,
Great.
So maybe to clarify this, it might say board members and persons elected to serve on the board or.
I
something,
think
because
the way
it's-
you clarified it makes
Makes
sense
sense.
to me.
yeah.
Okay,
It's just a little weird that they call us appointed in
In lieu of.
election.
Mhm.
yeah, but you're still elected. It's a default election.
Yes. It has to be.
Scared away the competition.
Yeah, and it has to be certified and all the other stuff, so.
Okay.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, all of the
Okay.
requirements. And also it's super valuable to it, but because it's an election year, just to make sure whoever, if there are new bodies sitting in the seats are aware of the Brown Act and what it means for them, because there are some rules you have to learn like right away if you're not familiar. So
Right.
just as time is approaching.
Anybody, any other questions?
No.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
Bullet point 5. Board members hold the education of students above any partisan principle, group interest, or personal interest. That, to me, seems hard for us to navigate sometimes because more and more school boards are being divided on political issues. And how do we do that? I'm not saying anybody is doing that, but it's like, but we're going to be faced with that. I guarantee y'all that we will be faced with that. How do we manage that when it comes to sex ed curriculum, when it comes to US history? How do we do that? And how have other districts navigated that?
Basically making it stronger is what you're
Mhm.
saying, making it stronger potentially than it's
Yeah.
written.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, think of this as a commitment that each one of you are making to each other.
Hmm.
So this board and the people who are on this board can make this commitment to each other. But you might get a new board member who said, I didn't buy into this. I didn't sign the handbook. I didn't make that commitment. And that's actually tragic, I think.
Mhm.
It's really unfortunate that our society is so divided, but look at this as your commitment. This is your book and it's your commitment to each other at this point in time,
Mhm.
as long as you are the board members.
Okay.
You can't bind somebody who's not here.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to point that out because I think it's coming.
And I think
You
just
know, it's
to
not
add to
coming
that,
for me, but it's coming for some of you.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be facing
That
it.
doesn't sound scary. It's
right.
coming for you.
It's coming for you.
I think to add to that, Brian, it's along the lines of you as the board, we have adopted curriculum. And so it's about your ability to, as a united front, right, you support that adopted curriculum and the decisions. I mean, we bring as a staff, I and my staff, we bring forward proposals and we make those decisions on curriculum and then we move forward with implementing that. I think it's really important that when you are questioned and that comes, you're brought forward to task on that it's supported, right, in alignment with what we agreed on.
And the other aspect of it too is just as a reminder, there are going to be times when some of you will misstep. You're human inadvertently, and the ability to come back and talk about, hey, in our handbook, because one of the things we want to make sure we do, that we have some forms of documents. Just say, here's our contract, here's our law, here's our policy, here's our handbook to address and that we all agreed upon. And then you address it there. So when you do have those types of disagreements with people are trying to, as I said, intentionally or inadvertently, it's that.
Very Very good.
So we're good with all these bullets, everybody thumbs.
An extra copy of the governance handbook with us? You do. Beth, would you like one? Okay.
I was gonna give our member of the public who's here.
Oh, okay.
Is that your only copy, Lou?
Yeah.
You have one,
Yeah,
okay.
I brought some.
Oh, great.
Break out.
Yeah, do that. Thank you. I have some notes, but then. I made it too fun.
Elliot in caps.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I circled one thing in particular as I read through this too, which was a unity of purpose. That really jumped out to me. It's like, what are we doing? Why are we here? What is our goal? It's a unity of purpose. It's about our students first and foremost. I think we all can agree on that. But what is, how do we get there? What is our goal? Unity of purpose. Yes.
Do you want to bold it, Brian?
Maybe underline, bold, italicize it. I don't know. Thank you, Elliot.
Yep.
Yeah, how do we emphasize that? Yes, yeah.
Happy to underline and bold it.
Oh, you don't have to. I'm just going off.
Can live with it.
Sounds like we're all good with this. Good. Then your norms. Now, you have a one page. We'll have it also. Primary goals, and what we can do. Is indicate, take these and say these are the interesting goals. You're still supporting with that. These are your priority goals. One more.
What's our task right now?
Sorry?
What's our task right now? Look, to read the norms? Oh, to read
You're
the,
you're recommitting to your December
okay,
norms, these were your top 10
okay.
norms. And we will put that up front as your top 10 norms, and then we'll go through the others.
Thank you.
And then while I just want to focus so that you're going through, these will be the top 10, and I'll put that at the beginning. But that doesn't mean the other ones aren't important. And that you are, again, making commitments to each other. If there are things you can't live with that are on here that you will not commit to, let your colleagues know and they'll remove it.
And if we wanted to add something, can we do that? So it'd be a top 11 norms.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add on there, we do not micromanage the district.
It's on there.
No, I think, Laura's.
Onto
What,
our
top
top
10?
10.
That went in the top 10.
Mhm. Top 11, I guess, if that happened.
Do you want to define micromanage?
Yes, I actually put down on here examples,
Yeah.
but
Go ahead.
I suppose that would be a question for everybody. I mean, I have my ideas of what micromanaging might be. Talking to administrative staff or directing administrative staff to do things, or I guess this could actually come to one-on-ones as well. One-on-ones with, yeah, I suppose, cabinet or staff members or administrators, things like that, where tasks are being given. I don't know. I guess I would like some additional information on what micromanaging looks like, if anybody else has examples. I'm not really.
The hard thing with that word is that it is not defined, right? And so I think we'd have to maybe.
I think what this speaks to is as a board, when the board micromanages, because individuals, we've already recognized that as an individual, you have no more authority than the citizen on the street
Mhm.
or any parent or any taxpayer. You're on equal footing with them. So your power is limited. What you might be considering is when you're talking, because of the position you hold, that is unusual, but most people don't hold the authority that you have and you've been vested with. You carry this hat around that you can't ever take off as a school board member. So the perception of staff might not be, well, I'm just talking to Laura Hotmeyer, citizen and parent. I'm talking to a school board member. So that gives more pressure on me as a staff member to react to you. And we're going to be talking about that. I think we did, recognizing that you have that individual effect, not because of anything you do, but because of your position. And the importance of when you are communicating with staff, reinforcing in their minds that you're just talking as an individual. You're talking as a parent, as a citizen, as a taxpayer. You can't force anybody to do anything. And they shouldn't feel that they're somehow going to suffer if they don't do what you've asked them to do. That you don't use your position as a board member to pressure people to do things.
So I've got one thought, because I was honestly hearing it a little bit differently from you. Because I agree with that's an important part, but I was thinking more, and you mentioned the one-on-ones in particular. I was just looking through, I don't think we have a one-on-one section in our norms, do we? Like, what should the one, because I definitely think there's been times probably, and I probably puts Linda as our sole employee in a tough place where I've said, hey, Linda, I'd like to see this. And is that micromanaging if I'm saying I one-on-one on you and this is what I'd like to see?
No, well, my guess is no, because it's our lane to ask and Linda's lane to say, yes, I can do that. No, I can't do that. Jen, your idea is wild, maybe in 5 years, or any of the above responses. But like our end is to ask, even if we may think it's a silly question, and then she picks up the other end and decides how to handle it with a response, which I totally trust that you do, and you're honest with us with what you can do or can't do, where we're not in our lane and we're asking for something that's outside our lane. Like, I trust that you will tell us that's what's going on.
I'm confused on why anybody would be sitting in a one-on-one asking you to do anything. Unless
So-
it is, I'm still talking, unless is on behalf of the board. And that's what I was talking about earlier, where if we are going to be tasking you with anything, it should be on behalf of the board and decided on behalf of the board. If we all have ideas that we're coming to you with and asking you to do things, we are not acting with transparency either, because how do I know what task you've put on to staff or what's happening behind the scenes? So that's why I would really like to get at the one-on-one while we're here, because that should be public time. The only thing that we should be doing closed is in closed session. The rest of it should be open to the public, because we are here serving the students and serving the public, and it should not be behind closed doors. So I think asking you to perform any task on a one-on-one, I would like to address that as well. I don't feel like that's healthy for our board.
Other thoughts?
I think that's I think that's a really good point. I mean, it's a lot of the things that we do during the board meetings when we ask questions. Sometimes we ask questions that we already know the answer to, right? It's like we're doing these because we're trying to distribute information to the public at large. But it's like when we're trying to get educated about a particular issue, I mean, it creates sort of a Pandora's box in some ways, but it's like, why, when we as board members are trying to get more information about an issue that we might not understand, why isn't that open to anybody that might want to jump in and get that information too? But then if we did that, it's like, oh my God, all you do all day long is sit and answer questions. But I get what you're saying too. You know, it's like, because is that meeting just for us and Dr. Adamson, or is it for the public at large? Because it could be to the benefit of the public at large too. So how do we manage that? You know, whether it's one of us or two of us, so we're avoiding the Brown Act violation too, and how, and there's a thin line between getting information and getting direction. It's like we can say, I want more information about a downed tree at PG High and why hasn't that been cleaned up? And before you know it, now you're giving direction, sorta, kinda. And how do you navigate that? It gets very muddy very quickly.
Well,
And I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, just like this is live and this is available for everybody to replay. If there is a one-on-one session, there should be nothing discussed in that session that should be of closed nature at all. So perhaps the one-on-one sessions are recorded and posted for the public. You know, I don't know, but when I'm hearing that tasks are being assigned or that there's asks happening, it makes me uncomfortable as a board member to know that there are people possibly singly giving direction.
I'm not giving
To the-
direction, Laura. I think that's a line, I think that's a line that it needs to be clarified.
I'm sorry, I was just taking, you said giving tasks, so I would take that as a direction.
I'm not giving Linda direction as an individual board member. If I do, please call me out on it.
Could I have examples of tasks? I guess I want.
Okay, so as an example, we are
I'm not
going
trying to
to,
get you
no,
upset.
no,
I
I'm
think
not
that's
upset. I
fine.
just, it feels kind of like a veiled thing, like if people are doing this and if in their one-on-ones, and I would love just something more specific, like, hey, you asked for this, or is this like a sneaking suspicion that other people are doing something? I'm just not really understanding like where it's coming from and what we're trying to get out of it.
Well, you had just specifically said that you gave her tasks in the one-on-one, and so I'd like to know what those tasks.
So I'm
Look
not
like-
giving her tasks in a one-on-one. Linda and I discuss a lot of different issues that come up. Sometimes it's a question from a community member that I'm like, hey, Linda, I've heard from 10 fifth grade parents about this issue. Can you let me know what's up? And then if it's something where she does feel it's for all of us, she typically says, I'm going to include that in the trustee update this week when I get information on it. But I do think it's within our role to ask for information if a tree fell down on a school or if we have families that are concerned about a policy. Everything doesn't get discussed out here. It's not all on the agenda. So when something comes up, I floated an idea to Linda about opening a school with English and Spanish language forever after she gave us her story about learning a language. And I was like, cool, I'm inspired. Let's see if we can get this off the ground. And the best thing she did for me is like, that's a lovely idea. And here's where we're going to start. Which I feel like saves time because then I don't come to the boardroom and say, everybody get on board with my idea. Cause I've already been able to like mention it to Linda, kind of vet it in a way. And she gives me a nice reality check and lets us know what we can do versus Jen's lovely idea for sometime in the very far out future.
I'm certainly not saying that we bring everything to a board meeting. What I'm saying is that we make it available for the public to view.
Sure.
So that it's all transparent. So whenever there is a meeting between a single trustee, which I think it should just be, it's one-on-one and not two-on-one. I think that would get a little messy. That doesn't happen, right? Two-on-ones.
Agenda
Well, when we
setting.
do
Except
agenda
for agenda
setting,
setting, I mean,
we
that's
always
policy.
two in
And
one.
policy.
Those are
I mean, but
subcommittees,
those
yeah.
are like with, that's all agendized. But having the one-on-ones be available for public viewing, I think that that's really, because if there's information being delivered, I mean, I would like that information too.
So I think, I don't know, I'm just going to go back to, I think, what the purpose of the one-on-ones are, right? And I think, that was something that I sort of proposed at the beginning coming into this position. It's something that I've, I know in every district I've done, every superintendent I've worked with has done it. I'm sure if I look over to you, Eric, you've done it yourself. And I think the purpose for me and the hope for it, but again, I think, this is an opportunity for us to revisit and look at it, is number one, relation building. I think for us, it's the only time we're coming together as a board in a public, forum, that's hard to, to build that trust and relationship. And I think that was something important to me that I, really proposed to all of you, even as part of my interview process, was this is, it's a good practice. And when, done correctly, it can absolutely foster, that positive culture and help build the relationships and trust. I think a little bit of what I'm hearing from you, Laura, is that, there's a concern that, are there different things that are being discussed in each of, those one-on-ones that, I do not believe that it's, direction that's being given. I think I'd try really hard and maybe more of a focus on that even to, when things do come up and when there is a question or more information is being given, to really put that in the Friday trustee update so that every one of you, has access to it. I recall in one of our last governance session, in fact, I think it came up where, that was a question that all of you were, wanting to be sure that even just for board agenda meetings, right, that you all had the same information. And I think we've done a really much better job then at making sure that shared document, that every single question that comes forward is included in it, even if it's just a comment, right, or just information that's been shared. So, really trying to get better with that. I'm open to, yes, maybe having more of a format and, sort of a commitment on, if anything that comes up during those times, if it is something that's a question or, an idea that, maybe that is included. That I think that would be perfectly fine to include that in the trustee update, to be sure that, it is transparent and open, that these are, 5 things that were discussed this week in each of the one-on-ones. And that way you're all privy to it. And, I think, and have the same information but I mean, I just really see those one-on-ones as more important than anything. It's about building relationships. And I would hate to lose that with each one of you because we have such rare opportunities to do it. So that's.
Could I just make a quick suggestion on that? I think part of the problem is I think we need that in here. If we're gonna have one-on-ones be part of our board policy or part of our governance, I think we should have a section in here that does say that, because I do also worry, I mean, I totally get where you're coming with the public side and the recording. I worry a bit about that just because then like that does, like I might drop less F-bombs if I'm being recorded than not. And Linda's seen me drop some F-bombs, unfortunately, in some of those one-on-ones. So it is something where, I think there's a value in it being one-on-one potentially, but I think there needs to be very clear guardrails on what those one-on-ones are.
Maybe that's what I'm looking for, is the guardrail. And sometimes I feel like the only true guardrail, like a really true guardrail, is
Right.
to be on video, because it can be replayed. Now, if there is a specific agenda that's set for one-on-ones, maybe there's free talk, whatever it is, fine. Like a space for that, but I want to make sure that you're not walking away with any kind of a task, that you don't walk out of the door with anything on a to-do list that came from a trustee that did not happen when we are all sitting together. Because to me, that's direction. That is, you take this task and you go complete it, and then things are getting done behind the scenes or it's getting assigned to somebody else. I want to make sure that that's not happening. One-on-one, if it is to get to know each other and spend time together and bond, fantastic. But anything beyond that, or like something happened in the community that, you know, which could be done via email, I suppose, you know, and then that way you could disseminate it to, or disperse, whatever the word is.
I like the idea of trying to get structure. I'm not in favor of videotaping only because they're gonna be.
I agree, I
times-
take that, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying as far as a guardrail
Right, no,
goes,
that I would agree 100%.
and so I'm looking for the guardrails.
Got it, okay.
Well, I'm thinking too, it's like, microphone, I kind of mostly like what,
Mike.
I'm sorry. Kind of mostly like what you're saying. It's like, there's an opportunity here when we do a one-on-one that there's information that we might be seeking. It's like, hey, I don't understand what this is. Can you tell me more about this? That you can say, hey, I had a one-on-one with another trustee who had no idea what SIPSA was, right? Or whatever. It's like, and so just so you all know, this is what it's about. And to be able to disseminate that information. So it's an opportunity for us to share information that maybe all of us were looking for. And also to shine a light on, it's just like, hey, we were talking and we didn't have some kind of hidden agenda or anything. This is what we were talking about. And this is what was shared. And to be able to put that information out and maybe help every board member as part of that process to not only let them know that this one-on-one happened, but this was the information that they were looking for. Maybe that's a way to make everybody feel more comfortable about what was going on.
I think there's a fine line between task, direction, suggestion, and idea. I will tell you as a former superintendent, if you ask me a question about something, I don't have it, I am gonna go to staff and try to get the information for you.
Yeah.
So is that a task or is that just a personal information gathering, et cetera? And so that will happen from time to time. But I think, again, having the idea of when you have your one-on-ones, having some form of talking points that were discussed, shooting them out to everybody will help with that piece of it.
There are already in your handbook, and we're going to get to it, some guardrails, and maybe you want to reinforce those guardrails, but one of the things that your handbook will speak to later that you'll see is you're all entitled to information about the district. But in some districts, a board member will go overboard. And I have no idea if it's happening here or has, but you have a guardrail there that says if a board member asks for information, it will take the superintendent more than 30 minutes to gather. It requires a board president's
Have that.
direction. So you have that, whether 30 minutes or 15 or 20, you can all decide whether what that should be. Remember, none of you have the authority to give her a direction to do anything. So any direction, any task really has to come to the board. As an attorney, I'm a little bit worried about the Brown Act and communicating with all of you of what is said to individually, because that potentially is a Brown Act violation. If you're
Yeah.
formulating policy and you say, well, this week I met with these 2 or 3 trustees and this is what we discussed. You might be coming too close to a Brown Act violation. So you really, I'm also not a fan of videotaping because I think that the most important part of that is building the relationship between human beings and getting to know each other as people. That I think is the single most valuable piece of those one-on-ones. And I would urge you not to give that piece up because you all need to function as human beings and recognize your human.
I'm fine with that as long as when you're talking about information, like I don't understand something or can you research this? You don't have the answer. That's reasonable. If I had a question, you don't have the answer and you're going to go seek it out. if any task is being given to any member of your cabinet or anything like that, it still shouldn't take more than 30 minutes because that's a distraction to the district. So, I mean, I really do want to set some norms when it comes to what the one-on-ones look like. I mean, I've been to, I think, three one-on-ones. And, you know, because I get the information I need from a weekly update. And if there is something that I don't understand or there's a concern, I'll email you. And I mean, I don't mean to create distance between us, but I think that there is something to be said for, we are a board of trustees and you're the superintendent, and I trust that you're doing a fantastic job with it. And so if I need to know something, you'll let me know. And if you need to know something, I'll let you know. And there will be a trail via email when that happens.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I have a different view of it. I do see that in some of these things, you know, now that I've been on the board enough, there's slippery slopes that happen. And I would never want to put myself in a space where I'm taking up more space than I need to, as far as your time, as far as the district's time, and that I'm being bigger than one trustee. And I see that having one-on-ones could create a situation where somebody's larger than a single trustee. And I really want to prevent that. And if we leave this meeting I will feel good leaving this meeting tonight, knowing that there are some serious guardrails up for the one-on-ones and that you are not being tasked with anything that's other than information gathering. And that's what I'm comfortable with in this space right now.
Okay. So bringing us back to these norms. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything on 1 or 2 that any of you cannot live with or
Ooh.
concerned about?
2M, if we could remove the reference to masters in governance again. 'Cause I don't know that I could tell you what the
Yeah.
masters in governance is wanting us to do.
Sportsmanship.
Yeah,
Sportsmanship.
Yeah. good call.
So Jen, you just wanted to end it, boardsmanship?
Yeah, that's fine.
Did you,
Yeah.
I think Carolyn said, did you say he was gonna, you could Google search it or something?
Or pull out all the masters. in
Search and
governance,
replace.
Yeah.
You're gonna do that anyway.
Find and remove.
I'm
Okay.
good with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Okay.
He had a minor
that's plain
typo.
enough for me.
P.
He had a minor typo.
Oh, thank
Public
you.
4A, not 4A.
Yeah.
Anything else on page 6?
Mm. Well, other than the typo at P, but unless for is actually a word.
No, it was just space was lost.
I missed that one when I was growing up, but
Fora
But
is
yeah.
the plural
Fora.
of forum, or the single for forum.
Flora, I know Flora, but I don't know Fora, so, okay, we're good.
Okay, everybody is good with 2, okay. On page
7.
So optimistically.
Okay.
Lou's been very optimistic. Keeps it moving.
on eight. We're on eight.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Just a quick question on the top there, T, like, should we wear, based on that, when I read that, that makes me sound like we should be reading it now. We should be wearing official badges now. And I just don't, all right, I'm not, Brian is.
Show off.
Ryan.
So I guess maybe just among us
Gold star.
clearly,
Gold star on that.
I got mine.
I mean, should we be wearing them at every board meeting?
I'm wearing mine.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
We should endeavor to do that, I
Okay.
think.
Even when we're at schools and we're not there for
Yeah.
board stuff, just wear them.
If
Yeah, I
we're
think
volunteering,
we should
like if
try.
Laura's
I wear
volunteering in the
like-
classroom, does she need a badge? Because then
I-
that's very confusing which
That's-
hat
I
you're
would
gonna
say
be
no.
wearing.
I wear mine every time because again, I don't want to hide that position and I'll say I'm here as a parent, but I
That's
want,
confusing. I wear my volunteer sticker with an apple on it.
I try even if I'm like going to a game or anything like that, just because, and I fail all the time, you know, but I do try
Second
because
graders classroom and if I'm wearing this and I'm like, I'm just a parent, and then I'm leaning down and then my badge is flopping around, it's like,
Well, we expect
Right? So
teachers to do
confusing.
it, so.
Yeah.
what's that?
We expect teachers to do it, so I don't think we can get off by saying, we can't get off the hook by saying like they're kind of cumbersome.
I think we
But
should
that's
try.
opposite than.
Try to not wear them?
No, try to
Try to wear them,
Try to
okay.
wear 'em.
Get out the
You should
deal.
Try to wear 'em, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, trying to
know,
not
yeah.
wear them, that's.
Like-
easy.
I was
My
like,
wife took my car, so I don't have it. in my car.
Try to-
For hours.
Even if you have a
That's
ton
where it's
of.
easy.
Cause it says board members who visit schools have no more authority than other citizens, and then we're walking our badges around.
The appearance
when we're-
of, yeah.
I mean, that's why we have a governance handbook, because it is a very strange role
It is.
with a lot of.
It's
nuance.
weird. I mean, I understand both sides of it too. It's like, you know, I don't want to walk around like with this badge hanging around my neck, but on the other hand, it's like, oh, you know what? We do serve a role. It's like we're part of it and maybe people want to know. It's like, I mean, I'm hardly out there. I'm barely out there. And so when I am, I wanna, it's like, I want people to know. It's like, if you do have a question, it's like, maybe I can help you, maybe I can point you in a certain direction because I'm just not really out there. So
So
I
Brian, you think we should?
I don't
you
wanna
agree
wear
with
it.
this?
What's that?
You agree with?
I
C?
agree with it. I
I'm
don't
fine
like
with
wearing
C.
it, you
Yeah.
know, it's like the last thing in the world I want is when I'm at Trader Joe's grabbing rice to be asked about it, but it's like, you know, but if I'm on campus, I want it.
I have not seen this
The badge?
badge thing in other.
Hmm.
Tell me what is the interest that's being served?
I think maybe maybe safety.
I'd go with safety only because I
Well,
think
there's that.
staff is all required. I'm assuming that's why it landed up in here, right?
Absolutely
it's something,
safety if
right?
we're
So I'm
showing up
assuming, yeah.
when
Yeah.
maybe we're not announced. You know, when we're just showing up because different principals have said to me too, it's just like, you know what, just stop by whenever you want. You know, and it's like, I'm uncomfortable with that. I like to let people know if I'm gonna show up. But if for some reason I might be driving by and it's like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna swing in and just see how drop off is going. I don't want to be seen as just, especially me. I mean, God, it's like, you know, I show up and I don't really look the part, you know, so this helps me make other people feel more comfortable. So there is that part of it.
It could have been. Maybe some employees felt it was a burden to ask them to do it, so the board said, well, we'll do it too. Since we're asking them. I don't know, I haven't seen this, and I guess safety and knowledge is a factor, but you should all check in at this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And even I, you know, as staff, district staff, when we visit sites, our protocol is we also sign in and check in. We've got our badges, but
Yeah.
just to put that there.
Even when we do, you know, our agenda meetings, I make sure I grab my badge now, just because I don't want to inconvenience somebody when I come in. And I still sign in, even though they're like, just like, come on in. It's like, I'm gonna sign in, right? It's like, because I don't know, I don't actually know what the rules are. It's just like, I have this, I'm gonna sign in, I'm gonna make sure everybody's comfortable. And
We appreciate it.
I want to play by those rules.
Yes. So what's the will?
I'm fine with it. Brian, you're fine with it?
Fine with it, yeah.
Sorry.
You know,
Yeah.
Just not when I'm volunteering. Can we put in there unless if we're volunteering in a classroom, cause like that's. I don't want a teacher to act, it's I feel like they'll act differently if. I'm wearing this. It just doesn't, it doesn't suit my personality to walk in with a staff badge if I'm there as a volunteer. I'm not there as staff, I'm there as a volunteer. My hat's above me all the time. They know I'm on the board. They don't need to be reminded by my badge. So that they are now like nervous in their classroom teaching because I'm standing there as a board member.
Well, I
And they're-
get that too. Is there, so what do you have to do if you're volunteering? What's the protocol if you're not?
You
There's
sign in
still-
and you put a sticker on that has a big apple that says you're a volunteer.
Either or? Are you okay with either or?
I'm fine with, I just don't want to wear my staff badge and agree to it if I'm volunteering in a classroom.
Yeah.
I just feel like it would be a distraction to the teachers.
I understand the other side of that too, where it's just like, oh my God, there's a school board member in my classroom. You know, I'm being scrutinized. You know, we don't do that. I know we don't do that, but I understand maybe feeling that that's uncomfortable. So long as you're, you know, following one protocol or
Oh,
the
yeah.
other, it doesn't really matter. I don't know if we need to, I don't know how we put that in there or if we need to put it in there, but
We could say we prefer for, this is a preference as opposed to, because it's a commitment. And if one of you say you're not making this commitment, then it should be clear, you're not gonna do it. So we could say we ask all board members to wear badges when they, at these times.
Okay. Yeah, I'm cool with it,
is there a preferred
as long as I'm not gonna, I mean, I'm not
wording
gonna
that
do it.
you'd like to see, Laura, that would make you feel?
If it says like prefer, like. It's preferred or, you know, so
request
it's
that.
slightly optional. It's only when I'm volunteering. That's the only
I
time.
do feel that the volunteering component requires maybe sort of calling out separately, because I mean, even as you're reading this, you know, you're visiting the district office, visiting schools, attending school functions, that's very much in your official capacity as a board member. And so I
Mhm.
wonder if.
Maybe you
even
could
just
say in
adding-
official
Oh,
capacity, like
yes,
when I'm in my,
yes.
when I'm acting in official
Yeah,
capacity as a board member.
yes.
That would be great.
That's a good call.
Okay,
Cool.
good
Okay,
one.
cool.
Okay.
Thanks. I get to wear my app.
Should we wear it for graduation?
Huh?
Should we wear the badge for graduation then? Yes.
Yeah, but it's gonna be
Okay.
under your robe, so.
And that velvet thing.
Yes,
The
yeah.
velvet tie.
What is that we're always trying to figure out how the back of
hood.
it goes?
It's like, it's pointy in the back, yeah.
It's the back part of it is weird. I was watching The West Wing just
Okay,
last week.
focus.
I know, but give me 5 seconds and they had no idea how it was supposed to go on the president either, how the back of the
Oh, see?
thing went. So they're just like, yeah, just get out there. So
Okay.
that's 5 seconds.
Good.
Moving it.
So when
Sorry.
acting in our official capacity as board members or?
Yeah, I think
Steve?
that's good.
So it's super clear. Or whatever we call ourselves typically, board members.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Thanks for
Apple
that,
sticker
guys.
for Laura.
Yeah,
Yay.
okay. Okay, how about 3? Is there anything in 3 that anybody has concerns about?
So 3E is really interesting based on our discussions. Because, you know, anonymous sources, like we had this issue recently where we got an anonymous letter and it's like, do we put any credence to that or not?
Yeah, well, I like that it's in there. You know, we've seen it though, and I'm glad that it's in there because we've seen it. We've seen anonymous letters come through and we're addressing it. We've not spoken about these anonymous letters that we've gotten because it's in here. And I'm fine with it. I think when you start to accuse someone of somebody, at some point you need to put your name on it. And as troubling as some of the accusations have appeared, if you don't have your name on it, we have a policy, we have something to go to that says, sorry, you know what? You got to put your name on it.
That is a slippery slope.
It is.
And I say that because if I'm a victim
Hmm?
and I want to send that letter out and I'm afraid of repercussion, retaliation, whatever case may be,
Mm-hmm.
then that
I understand that too. I understand how difficult that is. It's horrible, you know, but again, at some point, you got to put your name on it. And it's also very easy for people to send anonymous letters without their name on there. And then what do you do with that?
I'm going to give a phrase that when I was getting my doctorate, our dean said is how it's important when you're looking at things like this. It depends.
Yeah.
It depends. You know, there are certain, and Lou will give you more of a legal term, but something, it depends.
Sure.
Yeah,
Lou's just gonna say that it depends. He loves to say that.
Yeah.
Okay,
You think so?
let's remove it then,
Oh, you
Okay.
having it in?
Let's
Okay.
talk about that then.
because we have to.
We're on E.
You might be in situations where you should.
Well, I can envision a situation where maybe someone makes a potential threat, right? Like hypothetically, are we not gonna consider, because it came from an anonymous source, the fact that somebody has a plan or has articulated something to us? I feel like there's gonna be exceptions, and so it's tricky. And they're big exceptions. They're like, bad scenarios.
Yeah, somebody said they've been used. For other
Yeah.
people.
So how do we approach that? We will consider, we will,
I don't think you should even have that in there. I
Just
think
take
it
it out.
depends on the
Case
circumstances.
by case.
There's too many variables.
I think it also conflicts with some of our actions as a district, because as a district, we allow for anonymous submissions on our
Yeah.
website. So then it's,
that's a good
so
point.
Yeah.
are we allowing those and then also
Yeah.
saying we're not gonna consider?
Feels like we're
Yeah, I
leaning
don't think
in
that's fair.
towards just getting rid of it. We're getting rid of it,
I would recommend from a legal perspective, getting rid of it altogether.
everybody?
By E3.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, good.
others?
Good.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, anything else in 3 that comes to your attention or concern?
I'm reading.
Can I ask just a question about G? We do not disclose confidential information acquired during a closed session to a person not entitled to receive such information unless a majority of the board has authorized its disclosure. Can you give an example of when that, maybe like for a legal case, but I don't know when that would ever happen. That wouldn't even be ours to disclose.
Well, for example, attorney-client privilege belongs to the board. And the board would have to authorize its release. A single board member or the attorney cannot disclose attorney-client privilege. But it might be in the district's interest to disclose it, but it would take a board vote to do it.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
I think it just serves as a nice reminder that it's there, especially right now, because we're gonna have reporters coming to us, fishing for information, and we've got it here in black and white. That's like, this is what we do and this is what we do not do. And we can refer to that when people come knocking on our door looking for a comment. So it's a nice out for us.
I have a question.
Mhm.
I just don't understand 3B.
3B as in botulism,
Yes, or Brian? Yeah. Mhm.
no relation.
No relation.
All right,
What does that mean?
I assume that's a similar to giving direction.
Executive assistant to the superintendent's
provided
job
for an
description?
executive assistant.
What does
I
that
think that's like making an appointment with Linda, right? We're allowed to.
Board members don't assign work to employees except as provided for in the executive. Oh, so like if I'm, okay.
In
her- whatever, in her
job description.
Yeah.
Okay, that-
Maybe she's making your travel arrangements for you to go to CSBA.
Right.
And you are gonna tell her what times you're available for travel.
It's not.
I think the
Clear,
wording
the
is still wrong, though.
Yeah, it's a little awkward.
I would say the work to employees, except for the executive system, executive assistant
As provided.
as provided.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be
Or it could-
perhaps better to just say that board members go straight to Linda, and then like if Linda tells us to work with Lucero, then we would?
But I make, if you're trying to, I mean, the simplest answer, if you're trying to make an appointment with Linda, like, do you go to Linda to make an appointment or do you go to Lucero? I would argue that should be Lucero.
I probably would email both Linda and Lucero and then.
Right.
Because I think that's what I was think that's what I was told to do. I don't know. Okay, if it makes sense to you guys, I think it's just how my brain is reading that.
No, the wording's not great. I'd be happy to change it, but I don't feel strongly either.
Because, so this means we are allowed to assign work to the to Linda's executive assistant
Within their job description.
within their job description. Okay. All right, fine. Just leave it. If you guys, it makes sense, you want, it's fine.
Anything else?
I have, this is, I guess it brought up a pebble,
Mm.
is the 3K.
Okay.
And this is not meant as any ill will or anything, but when we talk, I remember when we talked last time about, you know, discussing things outside of board meetings, and there are people that, you know, we feel more comfortable or not with. And that to me seems I don't like the divergent goals or secret agendas, but it's just like forming alliances within the team. Like, I think that in itself is an important thing we should be trying hard not to do. And I don't know if that is something we fully all sign on to equally.
I guess I don't see my friendship with Jennifer McNary as an alliance. It's just a relationship I've had for so long. Sorry. I mean, I'm assuming that that's what you're talking about.
I mean,
It's me
you guys
and-
were the ones that you said that you guys are part, yeah, you guys have a relationship that she's the one you talk to about board stuff,
If
right?
I'm gonna talk to somebody about board stuff, it's Jen.
Exactly. And I would argue that I think that pushes towards, not saying you guys do it, but it pushes towards the ability of K that I worry about. If you guys are talking about it, you're more likely to be aligned than the rest of us. And so to me, this comes a little bit as the parent board member thing, that I think you guys should and could and 100% should be friends, right? It's not limiting that, but I just worry about the other aspect of it, to be frank.
It's valid. It's, you know, I mean, it's obvious. Can be off-putting. I think back to my earlier days on the board when sometimes I would talk to Path. Sometimes I would ask Christy because Christy knew all about evaluation, right? It's like she knew all about all that stuff. And I didn't know what the rules were. You know, sometimes, well, Path was a great one because he knew where all the bodies were buried, you know? And Bill Phillips was great because he knew all about taxes and property evaluations and all those things. And I could go to all these different people. You know, Debbie knew more about, you know, she had kids in the district who had issues and what their experiences were. And I did make a point always to, it's like, I never said, hey, Debbie, I just talked to John and John said this, but I had these people that I could go to that could help me understand what was happening and get a broader view. And just to educate myself. And I can't talk to you two. It's like, you guys don't, you just don't. It's like, I can't send you a recipe for.
You can talk to me.
Okay, all right. It's like, but it's hard. It's hard, right? And it feels really. And I think that for us as a board, that's one of our bigger issues really, is just like, there still seems to be this division. I'm glad and thank you.
Mhm.
You know, and I'm gonna send you some recipes, you know, because sometimes it's just that, you know, it's just like, you know, sometimes I want to just show to share these little joys in life too, that have nothing to do with anything else that we're doing. But I think it helps us celebrate what life is and what life is like in Pacific Grove, and sometimes how hard it is to be a parent or to be doing this job, all of those things. And I don't have that with everybody right now. And it's hard for me to not have that with everybody right now. And I want that. I want that. And I think we can have that, but it's hard right now to have that.
How would you send recipes?
I have great recipes too.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
That brown egg thing.
Yeah.
The last.
Two third grade teachers one assistant, it's instructional aid, will make a great.
But, and let me go beyond the recipe part too. It's like where I started with it was, it's like we all have these different places that we come from.
Yes.
We all have these different experiences that can shed light upon some of these things that we're trying to get our heads around. And there's a way for us to do that, I think, without violating the Brown Act, just to be able to understand. It's like, oh, well, I did this, or this is my work experience. I work in this really weird world, in entertainment where people are pushed to like their breaking point. And there are parts of the education world that parallel that too, where people are just pushed and pushed and pushed. And what's a 40-hour work week? What does that look like? And all of these things, they run parallel and they get twisted together. And I have insight into that. And I think that there's an opportunity for us to talk about those without breaking the Brown Act into shreds too. Break it into shreds. Anyway, you don't break something into shreds. But anyway, I think you know what I mean. I think there's a way for us to do that because we got, between the five of us and you guys and Linda and the rest of us too, it's like we got a lot of brains in the room that can really contribute some great things. And sometimes I think we're missing opportunities to share this collective brain to make things better. So that's the end of my rant or whatever.
Because of the Brown Act, you're not going to be able to share things that pertain to the school district.
Yeah.
But there's nothing to prevent you from being human beings with each other. And socializing is one of the options. But then you have to worry about appearances to the outside world. And how do I know that when you had a barbecue at Brian's house, that you didn't talk about school business? So there's the public perception that you always have to have in the back of your mind, so you don't cause the public to be suspicious of what's going on. It's a delicate balance, but bringing us back to K. Because K is a question, can you all commit to this or not? And if you can't commit to it, we're going to remove it. If any one board member says that doesn't work for me, then it's not a commitment you're going to make to each other.
I think the challenge might be is I feel like I have committed to this, but I don't think, from hearing what's the discussion is, it seems like there's a difference of opinion because I did not sit down with Jennifer McNary and say, we're going to form an alliance. We're going to vote the same on everything. We're going to carry out our goals and secret agendas. We've just been experiencing either public meetings or board meetings in a variety of ways for almost a decade together. And so in that way, even if you separate us and we don't talk about something, we share a certain understanding. And I mean, like you could separate us, I have a feeling, for an entire board agenda. Like we could not talk for an entire agenda. And it would be shocking how similar we feel about things. So that's the challenge for me. I did not form an alliance. I did not agree to carry out divergent goals or secret agendas. But again, like you were saying, it's the optics, right? So the optics of it is there. And I don't think there's anything I can do to fix that. So I don't know what to do with this one.
I think it's simple, actually.
What is it?
And that is, if you're committed to this and Jen is committed to it, we're done with it. It's just a commitment you're all making to each other.
Yeah, I'm committed.
Okay.
My goal is to serve students. And I think we all share that. That's the goal. I don't have an agenda. That would be so much work. It's hard enough to manage what's on our plates already. And I don't have an alliance with anyone. I'd be happy to exchange recipes. I probably am gonna be really slow on a text thread, just.
They're
just
really
me,
good.
but I believe
Very
you,
good recipe.
but, yeah, I appreciate your honesty, Brian.
Good. Can we all agree then to everything with the exception of E in number 3?
Or sorry.
Oh, yeah,
No,
no.
just for M, just
M.
want to point back to you, Linda, that I really think this is going to be important that, you also sign up on that, which I know you are, but like, if I do something wrong, I want everyone to know about it. And I want to know first, but like, I think this is, again, in the air of transparency, we should all be making sure that's clear.
Okay.
I hope I haven't offended in reading it now. It's like, I think I've done okay.
Okay,
So, but if not, by all means,
Right.
please
Sure, yeah.
point it out.
okay.
No.
We are committed to 3. With the exception of E, which will be removed.
Can we go back just a quick thing? No, there's just one last thing. It's
Yeah.
like, no, scroll back up for a second. Under titles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Use our
and-
titles. We don't have to, right? I really hate signing my name other than board trustee. I know I'm president. I hate, but I don't have to, right? I can just say board trustee. Sometimes I'll write /president, but I don't have to, right?
I think it's clearer for the public and anybody who might be paying attention because my understanding of one of the hats you wear as president is then you do become the spokesperson
Yeah.
as a board member. Linda's kind of for the district and then as the board. So I think that comes with the role of being president.
I'll
is
do
to-
it. I just
agree
don't
with
like to
Jen,
do
sorry.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
it.
Okay,
You okay with that?
we got you on the
I'm okay
board?
with that.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, you're okay with
I
this.
just
All
don't
that
like
matters.
it, but I'm
Okay.
okay with it. Thank you.
it's okay. We're almost halfway through and we're doing fine. So if we can last until 10. Number 4. Is there anything in number 4 that we need to talk about? Anybody wants to bring up?
What is ad hominem?
It means to the person. Yeah. Literally. I knew my Latin would come in. Yeah,
I was gonna ask the same question once we got there, so thank you.
yeah, yeah.
I have no issues with anything under 4. I think we could be better at it. I agree.
And I want to point out that the perception issues are important to you as they are to everybody. And B speaks to our individual responsibilities. They're just members of the, okay?
Mhm.
Moving on to
Okay.
5.
Nope. Well, looking at 5 again, I've got no issues with it. I just think we could be better at it. We should all read those word for word and think about what it means and what that all means. Unless anybody has an issue with it, where it's just like, no, I don't like that. It's like, I think we could just all be better at it.
Say more, the rest of you.
Thumbs up, thumbs down, or comments? Thumbs up, thumbs up.
Thumbs up, everybody.
Okay.
Got 5 down,
Very
thumbs up. There we go.
Well done. Okay, number 6.
Me too, I was thinking.
I was actually just gonna say, I don't like E.
No, I just think it's worded.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That's why I started laughing as well.
Like shield? Like it makes me think of the Avengers or something.
Yep.
But what, I mean, yeah, I guess I would say, what is that intending to mean? Through, 6E,
6E,
yeah.
6E.
Like, how do we shield the superintendent? C?
Yeah, well, that's a
I'll
good
take
point.
that.
How do we actually do that?
it should be the
Yeah.
superintendent.
How do we
Look at that,
protect
I'll
Linda?
go there.
That's what I want to know.
I know.
How do we do that?
Sorry, Linda.
Park out in front.
Leaving me out there to
Do
drive.
we want that? I mean, what
I,
does it mean, Lou?
yeah.
Like,
Can you
what
tell
do
us what
we-
it means? If not, I would
If
strike
not,
it.
yeah, I'm in that same boat.
Like,
We'll get
Um,
useful.
It could be a variety of things. One example might be a parent who doesn't get a particular teacher that they wanted and they start attacking the
Oh.
superintendent for it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Low
It might
class
be
size
that an
in kindergarten.
employee doesn't get a job, a position, a promotional position that they wanted. And so you're protecting the superintendent. Part of her job is to make tough decisions. And she's making those tough decisions on your behalf
Got it.
and is having her back.
got
Okay,
it.
that I do. I agree with.
All right.
Good one then, yeah.
That's fine. The way it's explained, yeah.
think we should leave it how it is.
Okay.
Everybody
Fun
good?
state.
Yep.
Carolyn's
I
good,
changed the
everybody?
superintendency to
Agreement on that
superintendent.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got you, we got you.
Yeah, it was not an issue with the meaning, just the terminology.
Armor.
Okay,
Good. Okay, we're over some major pieces here.
6H should be her. Sorry.
We'll go through and
Yep.
6H, thank you.
find them.
do we wanna, do we wanna have to, like, every time we have a different superintendent, and we've got you for another 10 years,
Yeah.
Dr. Adamson, so, but do we wanna just change all those to there instead of his or her?
You know, as tedious
that
as
be
this
easier?
might appear to be, these are commitments that you five are making to each other.
To her.
To her.
Okay,
Annually. So.
All right.
yeah.
So when you get a new
Annually.
board member, you're gonna have to get that person on board. Okay,
all right, I'm down if everybody else is with
Okay.
that too, just throwing that out there,
Yeah.
so.
Mhm.
Okay,
okay. Board, this is largely, well, this is Brown Act, but it's also beyond that. It's just about how you appear,
Mhm.
that your decorum at your board meetings.
Okay.
Are there any issues here? Well, first of all, I want to make sure you've all had a chance to read it. Yeah, we're
Are we
on.
on to during board
During
meetings?
board-
During board meetings.
Thank you.
during board-
H worries me just a little bit, only that like, I mean, that's only during the meeting, right? Like, if we're in a break, it's okay to go into the audience and say hello to your kid's kindergarten teacher. Just
Yes,
the way it says,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
you must stay behind the dais.
It's during- we could just say during board meetings.
Well, but
Even that break.
even
no,
that,
no,
That's
Yeah.
true, that's true. Yeah, it's,
When in session,
yeah,
because that's
Yeah.
really what it is, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
when we're on break, we're not in session, right?
I just added when the meeting is in session. Does that work?
Oh, there you go, Elliot.
Yep.
I know it's kind of tiddlywinks here, but under O, sometimes it's like side conversations can be between Elliot and I when we're trying to, it's like when I'm running the meeting and he's
Hey,
timing
yeah.
something where it's like, we need to have, you know, like just a quick chat about, it's like this person's about to run over or something like that. I mean, can we interject like unnecessary conversations, unnecessary side conversations?
Right, or should that always be on the, I mean, there's some boards that's always on the microphone, right? That could be like every side, I've seen board meetings where they do that and it's hard to follow. So I like the idea of having some ability, but it just like on
Because some
procedural
it's
matters.
necessary, and I know it's a little bitty thing, but it's a little bitty fix too.
One of the questions, if you open the door,
Mhm.
the situation you'd mentioned with Elliot is somebody's going over their time and you want, wouldn't that, it's either your choice or you go to the whole board and say, the board members want to continue this rather than. It seems like if you open the door a little bit, where do you close it?
Okay. Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, we'll just try to do the best we can.
And because in the term is conversations,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
conversations. If you are asking, hey, what page are we on? That's not a conversation. That's just checking in.
Well taken, yes. Okay, okay, all right.
But that, you don't think that would be interpreted by somebody in public? You know, I could lean over and then she said, and I could have been saying, can you believe that? Da, da, da. And then she could say, I can't even, and then, but they don't know, I mean, it takes that much amount of time, that short amount of time. So I don't think that we're really a board that has side conversations, so I'd be comfortable removing that, because I don't think that really. I don't think we're gonna start having side conversations. I don't know how anyone else feels, but. It doesn't, I can go one way or the other. I can figure out the page. number
I'm
for
happy to,
myself, but-
yeah, no, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I would be okay saying like, we keep the language the same, but we allow for procedural clarifications when necessary. But not writing that in here, but just saying
Yeah.
that as a whole, because the conversation point, I think, is that key. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good one way or the other. I just want to make sure that the perception isn't,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's a very fair point.
Yeah,
All right, so what are we doing?
I want you to take a look at P.
I have a question about P.
Yeah, P is tricky.
My question about P is, I guess, a legal question. I heard that if you do send text messages, et cetera, or emails on the dais, that those are discoverable.
Well,
Is that true?
it is true to the extent that it relates. It's true to the extent that it relates to district business.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter whether that's during, after.
So
or
you're really, you
before a
should-
board
just
meeting.
shouldn't.
All of your text messages pertaining to school business is
Oh.
discoverable
Mhm.
and is a public record.
Oh, I see. So there's no need to really differentiate, because I've always like not wanted to like even have my phone out for, like touch my phone, because I thought, oh, because if I send something,
But if,
then,
yeah, like if you send a personal message to your husband saying I'm gonna be late tonight, that's not
yes.
discoverable.
However, on that
Uh,
same link, there could be other comments that you made regarding the board.
And so
To-
somebody could do a PRA for like electronic messages sent while you were on the dais, like during this time frame. Is that possible?
Sure.
Yeah.
Everything's possible. but-
It's entirely possible. Entirely possible.
Leave it on,
But
Lou, just leave it
yeah,
on. Okay.
I think I learned my lesson here. When I saw this, I thought, it's pretty severe. What if somebody has a
Mhm.
very ill child, parent, spouse, partner, whatever? That it's a burden. And you might want to say, except for emergency calls, personal emergencies, something like that. I do know that there are some board members who regularly text during, it's a terrible public perception issue.
Yeah.
And they don't know if you're texting another board member or having some secret conversation with 2 or 3 board members,
Yeah.
you know? So it's really a horrible practice. But this is an absolute. And I thought, wow, it's a pretty severe absolute if somebody has a sick child,
Yeah,
a
I'll-
sick spouse.
I'll be frank, it's like right now, my wife is out 40 minutes away, my daughter's home alone. I'm going to be checking my phone to see if she's right around the corner. So I will not agree to that as written for that reason.
Now,
Like, when it
what
comes
is-
to family matters, I'm going to,
It's so
if I'm on
broad.
call.
It's so really, really broad, especially during, given the times that we live in right now. It's like, because again, it's like I'll get a text from my wife. It's just like, I gotta go, and kids are home and the dogs are in the kitchen, and some of these things I need to know. I just as soon lose it. rather than try to define it in a way like, because it just seems so much of nothing really. There's sometimes again where it's like we need to send a note. It's just like, well, this is going long, or there's just a lot of different ways. It's the world we live in right now. And so long as we're not, when I think back to a couple of years ago, when we did have a board member who sometimes seemed a little disinterested, and the board, and it's earlier in our notes here too, where it's just like, we called him out. It's like, you know what, you need to step up. You can't be sitting there looking at your phone for 2 hours. You need to engage, and the board took care of it. And I just assume we lose the whole thing. But that's my take.
This is an issue in some districts.
Yeah.
If it's not an issue for you, do you need it?
No.
Has anyone been concerned with anyone else's behavior on that? Because I do know I check for
I
my,
haven't cared at all.
then I'd be okay striking it for that reason.
Strike P.
You got it.
Gone.
Normally I'd be okay editing it, but I agree, we're good.
Okay,
Okay, great.
How about
Except
the
your
next one?
recipes, Brian. I do have to check.
yeah, next one.
Now you go back to the next one.
Q, I hope not. I hope nobody's taking a phone call.
See, I think that gives us the guidance we want. I mean, you keep it silent, you're not going to have and that way you can still receive text messages.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say,
You don't want the.
except in case emergency. is
Except
what
in
I
case
would.
of emergency.
Yeah, I would do
Again,
that.
Yeah,
That was
my daughter calls
for
me.
bringing that one up.
She knows better not to ask me if she can buy something on Amazon, but if she's calling me right now, I would want to answer it because it could be, she knows I'm at a board meeting and she could be unreachable, but
right,
Yeah.
I'm still more reachable than my wife at sometimes.
Okay,
okay.
And please call me out if I'm doing too much of it anytime, but all of you, please.
okay. How's the rest of this?
Or we could do better at times, myself as well.
I was surprised about Jay. Do you actually follow Rosenberg's rules of
No.
order?
I think I mean, in terms of debating on personalities. I mean, I would say, I like the fact that it's actually quoted there, because I think
Okay,
if,
okay.
yeah, Carolyn called me a persnickety beast, then Brian would be like, no, that's inappropriate,
Okay.
right? I'm just calling out random people. Sorry, Carolyn.
How to spell
How
persnickety.
about if I call you a persnickety beast? Then hopefully Brian would tell me
Oh,
that.
anyone a persnickety beast.
Okay,
Cut him off, Brian.
as modified, can you all commit
Yes.
to all
Are
these?
we okay with Jay? I'm just reading that now.
And I wonder, is
Kinda.
it specific
Freedom of-
to board members or is that with public comment as well?
Yeah, I assumed it that way.
There's actually, there's a case, on shutting down a member of the public. That, a federal court case that said you can't do that.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, so
As long
this is
as they're within their-
specific to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like unless it's a threat of, there's that list, like if it's a threat of violence,
So, yeah.
completely out of topic of our jurisdiction, we'll just stick to that.
Profanity. and
Yeah.
so,
I didn't know what this was referencing.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is specific to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we axe it.
Okay.
Okay,
Support.
okay, we're done.
I do
Okay,
think we should, like, in our, maybe Linda, in your computer, you should save the original, because in a day when like board members have changed, you might be
Yeah.
like, oh, remember there was something in there, then you have to reword it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jen, did you say Jay? Did you want to talk about Jay?
I just
get rid
wanted to
of
take
Jay.
away Jay.
Let's get rid of Jay.
All supportive axing thumbs up.
Mhm.
Does everybody want to be, okay,
I don't
Yeah.
feel strongly. I mean,
I mean,
Fine.
anybody want to talk about it or we're good?
I don't
Okay.
need to.
No,
I don't know. Wait, why are we axing it? I don't.
I'm in favor of axing it because, number one, I don't think it's needed with the 5 of us. Number two, the chair having the right to cut off a discussion that only they deem is too
Oh, I see what
personal,
you
too
mean.
loud, or too crude is
Yeah.
too much authority given to.
I agree with that. I
Oh,
agree. with
oh, I see. There's 2 Jays. I did
Oh.
not notice that.
Jay.
I was on the second J. Yeah, there's,
Not on the.
No,
Yeah.
not in the one you gave us.
Right,
I don't know.
okay, yeah, I'm thinking,
okay.
where are we?
That's a K.
Oh, how about
Your
that?
second J is a K on.
Oh.
Second day is
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Oh,
We
the
already do
second
that.
J I'd like to get rid of.
The second J?
Yeah.
The K? You want to get rid of
We
that
speak
too?
only after first having been recognized by the chair and do not interrupt others.
We do that.
I mean,
You call it, I mean.
I know, but I don't want to.
It's good idea. It's a
But
good
I,
Yeah.
I
idea.
like the idea of not interrupting others. I think
Yeah,
that's
that-
got to be there.
Yeah.
and-
It actually saves time, makes it efficient too,
Okay.
because we're not like, wait.
We're gonna- It sounds like there's a agreement that we're gonna get rid of the first J,
Okay.
this
yeah.
one.
Correct.
Okay.
Do we have to recognize the chair, though? Can we reword that in some way where it's like we don't interrupt others or something like that? It's like, I really hate this where it's just like,
But you are running the meeting.
Mr. President, may I speak? It's like,
It's the business of the district. It's okay to be formal.
It's the role, Brian.
It really is, I was gonna say, it is, Brian, you really do, because
Yeah.
there are times you're gonna have 2 or 3 people wanting to
That's
talk
yeah.
at one point, and
It's a
so
good
you need
precedent
somebody
for
to be
that.
able to say, this
Okay.
person's first, this person
I'm
goes.
gonna go on record that I don't like it.
It
It's-
really is, just even if I looked at you and said, you know what, something to add, and I'm not, Mr. President, may I speak? I'm not gonna do that
Right.
because
Please don't.
well, I might now.
I may now, yeah. I was
Yeah,
gonna say.
just for
Okay.
That's what you-
I know, next meeting, I declare we will call Mr. President. Mr. President only.
We already made a note of it.
Oh, okay, fine.
See what you did there? See what you did to yourself?
Anything else in this section during meetings? We need to. Should we get,
Let's wait for
you
Jen.
know, we've been going for a while. Why don't we take a
Break.
5 minute?
Yeah. All right.
Donut break.
Yeah.
Thank you. Donuts or chicken, so.
Yeah.
Put it together and make a donut fried chicken sandwich. They have those. Yeah. 2 glazed donuts.
Wow.
One piece of fried chicken. That would be like a donut or. Coffee? Oh, it's a coffee, have half cup?
Donut chicken sandwich, huh? I don't know about that.
Wow. Yeah. Hmm. That's exactly it. It sounds like a heart attack waiting to happen.
Well, we're getting there, aren't we?
Yeah.
What
we're
page
making
are we
good
on now?
progress, Yeah.
We're
9.
coming up on 9.
Hmm.
What a ways to go still.
Okay.
27, we're a third of the way through.
Hmm.
It doesn't feel like, yeah, I don't feel like at 8:20 in the evening, I don't feel like a donut. I don't feel like I want a donut.
Mhm. Mhm. Good thing.
And it's too late in the evening now for a cup of coffee.
Mhm.
What did you get there, Twizzler? All right, that'll work.
It's never too late for coffee.
Well, gosh, yeah, I might think about it.
Yeah, do you want? Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Let's do a cup of
Why
coffee.
not?
Yes.
Let's do some coffee.
I don't drink coffee. I don't even taste that smell, so all of.
Really?
Go away. Okay. I will be over here with my Twizzler and my bubble water.
It took me a while
Yeah.
to get back on coffee. It's like when I had COVID February of last year, I just lost my interest in coffee, and I used to be a big coffee drinker, like
All day?
3-4 cups of coffee a day.
Oh.
And then I was just like, no, I can't drink that. Yeah, and then only recently I got back on it.
Well, I think that is kind of the challenge, I believe, like, how do we, it's supposed to be like digestible for us, you know? I think what's happened is that over the years. But no, we're finding, yeah. I get that vibe too. I know. Yeah, I remember I used to. Yeah. I used to tell them how. Well, this is what I used to tell them. I said, please. When you make them, so much. You got so much in here. Can you just show, I didn't tell them exactly what to do. I just said, this is, it becomes, nobody's gonna read it. The parent goes right to the back, signs it. Right. No one's read. Right, I know, that is funny. But that's all we can all remember and digest and keep with us. Be respectful. Yeah, how many times did you say that? That's what you're saying. So many different ways. Like, don't use coarse language. Okay.
Kind and respectful. But I guess I think there's just. Well, the standard. I don't know, but yeah, this to me, this will. Individual thing, that's what we need to add.
I've been going to the board meetings for the last 10 years, you know how, yeah, you know, so, yeah, or it's so fast. Yeah. I don't know.
No, I think the.
This was more substantive than that was, but yeah. I thought it. Well, you know, if there's a. I think we should. But I think it's all about like all the public. There's a way. Oh, room here. Nothing. Oh, a future. So another one.
I know, I'd like to be violated somehow.
Coming back. To resolve the issue. So that's a big one.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
This is like trying to think of every little thing that can go wrong.
Well, and it is, it's based on something that
Yeah.
happened and something.
Yes,
found
and
it,
somebody
it's
else's district.
Added it in.
Yeah.
The just in case.
Yeah, especially in. Hold it from national governance or.
Yeah, it seems like a variety of sources that compile it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite time.
I know, you know.
A little slower into. I know, my mom said that, like, keep it down. We all have our. So, I was with a different group, because we have two different groups, so I did every one of us. The other one is like. I see you don't put the bills all the same way as a baby. You don't put them. I did it right. No.
Well, is it brighter in here?
Yeah, I turned on the, so, light. Do you want to down? Yeah, I don't. The light is down. Put it in the protocol. Lights on during meetings. Turkeys. Right there. On Campbell.
No.
Gonna be.
I had some experience in Campbell, but I wasn't sure the time frame. It's gonna be our new high school.
Really?
Coming over from town, but I heard the name, I was like, oh, I wonder if they overlapped at some point.
No, because I was at the elementary district.
Oh, gotcha.
Mhm.
How many school?
Well.
Yeah, that's a lot. Okay.
So interesting how the principal rotation. There's so many, our firm almost never did principal. Probably if I was to say a couple years before the pandemic, we did 3 a year, that was a lot. My friend Lynn. Now we probably do between 15 and 20 a year. Yeah.
To do their search.
Yeah.
So like kind of outside HR.
Right.
Okay.
That-
It's hard to find someone with staying power.
Yeah,
It's a horrible.
it is, and in today's times, it is rough, it is especially a high school principal. Oh my goodness, you are, yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
my daughter is an assistant principal at the high school. And she, or a dean, I should say. And I know, and last week, you know, she, low person on the totem pole, she was out 4 nights. Doing events, oh, yeah, and so. Yeah, no, it is, and you're expected to be there. And what's tough is, you're expected to be at all of the events, so you gotta make cameo appearances, you know, I gotta be at the play, while I'm at the basketball, while I'm at the volleyball game, while I'm at the wrestling match. while I'm- Yeah.
Yeah.
Because word gets
And then you
out.
get work first thing in the morning.
Right, exactly
Again,
that.
Check your email. first thing
Mhm,
now
here
and
we
then
go. And not to
Yeah.
mention the number of people who come up to you when you're at the events because
You're there.
you're there.
You're-
Yes, exactly. We got it.
Oh, yeah.
Or her.
Laura, take it.
So what if I just get a little candy?
Information.
Well, I want some. Yeah, I need my donut.
Yeah. Your donut was really hungry here.
What's the crust on that donut? Is it?
It's like the,
Coconut?
the brown sugar from.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of that.
I love it.
Okay, good people, we're bringing it back.
Are we're back in session? Okay.
That was kind of amazing.
Are we done with this during board meetings, A through R?
I think we are.
Okay, very good. Now protocols.
Did we add the except for emergencies piece?
Yes.
Sorry, okay.
Yes.
Oh, thank you,
On cue.
thank you, perfect.
Yep.
I added the word personal emergencies. Are you all okay with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, protocols. Let's take a look at A through, D. A and B are simply Brown Act requirements. C as well. Yep, all of this is Brown Act.
Choose anywhere there. See anything?
Anybody want to discuss anything in here? Need another minute to look. It's such as, yeah, and there should be a period, not a comma. Oh, thank you. No, it's, I appreciate that. This was a conversion from a PDF, so it comes out a little bit worse sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to
Agenda preparation.
agenda prep? Okay, A through C.
Have to change. It's currently A. We have both the clerk and the president present for that. So,
I will be honest, I would be okay with going back to or. I mean, I've not, again, in full transparency, I've not made many of those agenda meetings just due to my schedule. So, I mean, I'd be fine with it just being one member to, again, avoid the appearance of impropriety.
Yeah, I think Lou recommended that last governance session
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
Didn't you? Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
I did.
and I'm happy to fill in, but I think,
Do we want to rearrange that at all, or?
same, right, as is.
That's what.
Yeah, we-
Laura
Yes,
said.
Ah,
president or
okay.
clerk.
Yeah, okay, yeah, good.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, so a letter off the hook tomorrow morning.
I already declined it too.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah,
11 hours from now, I'll see you then.
Lou, can I ask you a question
absolutely.
loosely related? When we're at a board meeting and say like a member of the public gives us something, are we required to then put that online or document in some way, or do we not need to?
Good question.
Yeah,
If a member of the public gives you something at the board meeting, it then becomes a public record, public document.
Okay,
You are not required to put it online.
okay,
Now, you're not required to have copies of it at the meeting because you didn't make that document.
okay.
But if anybody wants a copy, they're entitled to get it the next day.
So we have to have a way of retaining it. But we don't have to necessarily, is that right? Or only the next day, does it expire in 24 hours? Or what do you mean by next day?
Next business day, if somebody comes. in and
Next day,
wants it.
business day only, and after
Yeah.
that, poof?
It depends on what the document is. So if,
Website, for example.
it might.
Yeah,
be-
like a screenshot
if
of like,
it's
we
a-
have public comment, somebody says, I saw this on a website, here's a screenshot of it, and they hand out 5 copies or 7
Ah.
copies, and all of us now have it.
Except for not all of us, because one of us is in Virginia
right.
and not at the board
Well,
meeting.
all of,
So-
the quorum has it, the quorum. has
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would almost suggest
Might
that
have it
you
in my
keep
bag
it
for you.
because it's a part of the records with everything else that you do have, but I don't think you.
Do we
have
need
the
to
obligation
put
to
it
do
on, cause like we're really good at like, we put like the video recording up, and then like if there's a slide presentation, we put all the
Oh,
slide
there's a question.
presentations up.
Okay.
But like, do we need to add then? Is that like something that we need to record?
those are
It's in the
choices you've
district.
made. They're not required.
I do not, and I want to very,
So,
I mean, I also want to have the ability to, can we say no when someone's handing us something out? Because if there's somebody, I mean, I could go up, but the thing is, I could go up and hand you a communist manifesto, then we put it in our record, and then I could come back and be like, look, the board has a website, they support the communist manifesto because they've have it. You see what I'm saying? Like, they can almost get you in trouble by giving you something.
Well,
that
then we would just clarify, we put everything up that is given to us, and it was given to us by a member of the public.
those
I don't know.
those are choices you make. They're not legal requirements.
That is what
So-
I was
Yeah,
wondering.
it's not a
Okay.
legal requirement. It's not a legal requirement to keep everything that everybody gives you either. You
Yeah.
can choose to keep it or you can choose not to keep it.
We
Thank you
should
very
just be
much.
consistent.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, we should choose it, be consistent.
And then can we hand it back?
I
I
think.
mean, that's the thing is, what if we don't want to, can't we say we do not want?
I don't want it.
Ooh-wee.
I mean,
Well-
I'm happy to listen to a comment, or if you
Right.
want to give me a website, maybe if I choose to research it, I can, but I don't necessarily want a piece of paper thrust at me and.
I would say just as a matter of courtesy to the public, take it
I agree.
because they can mail it to you. You know, they can email it to you and so they can send it to you. Whether you choose to keep it or not, that's your choice. Now, I think Eric makes a good point that there are documents that you might get that you want to keep as a record of what somebody said to you.
Mhm.
But Elliot also makes a good point that you may not want to keep everything you get. So it kind of depends on what it is they're giving you.
Is it something that would be in this document or is it something that we would decide upon at a policy level?
I think your superintendent can make a call. Is this a document that the district needs to?
Just
put
a
in the
protocol that's maybe not in writing?
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
But legally, we're okay with not, we can make a choice.
You don't have to
ourselves.
post it. You don't have to put it on. That's your choice. Yeah.
Well, Thanks for asking that.
Who
Kayla.
decides that?
Very good.
Linda, I
Linda.
think?
Yeah, normally it's, Lucera and usually it's my office who posts, all of those items. So yeah, it would be the decision that we make.
Okay, so I would like to continue, I guess it's not in here, but I would love to continue posting the slide decks from the
Absolutely.
presentation.
Any of the
staff.
official staff
Mhm.
materials. sure.
Yeah, staff materials, the video record, like the whole shebang.
Absolutely.
Anything that comes from
And
PGUSD.
I would say if it's
Makes sense.
if it's a benefit to the community in the district, feel free to put it on the web. If it's something that's clearly not,
See, I think that's where it
That's
gets a little gray.
subjective, though.
I think we
That's
would
where it gets-
say.
No, but I'm not saying they have to write it.
Not gonna
Okay.
post, unless it's provided by staff, that would be.
Yeah.
Fair.
my pick.
Okay, that's good.
You could get a document, a complaint against an employee that names an employee and says outrageous things. I don't think you want to post that online.
Well, Lou, we wouldn't post that because that would be confidential as a personnel item.
Yeah,
If they
but some,
presented
the
it to
people
somebody.
could do that at a public board meeting. And
And
hand
we'd
it
have to
you.
redact it.
And then, yeah, you don't want to have a rule that says every document we get, we're gonna post.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're all okay with that
I
and
think we are, yeah. I'd still want to make sure that we're clear on it. So things that are presented by district employees are entered into the record. But things that are presented from someone who is not a district
Someone from
employee
public.
are not required.
They're not required.
But again, then that gets slippery because who decides if it is or
I
isn't?
think we have to trust
Well,
the
again, I
And that-
think
is
it's
that-
part of what, an item that's on the agenda that we
Agendized,
are
yeah.
presenting and it's, all of those items are
that's
presented
the
by
gauge,
staff.
yeah.
It's agendized.
Because district
We're gonna get
employee
to
could be any,
posted.
could go.
Could
Uh-huh.
go
Yeah.
anonymous letter,
Ways.
or
Yeah.
not anonymous letter,
Yeah.
but like complaint against them.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
be like
maybe if it's
in a-
agendized, that works,
Agendized.
because let's just say you had someone from the YWCA coming in to do a presentation, so they've done something at your school site, and they have a pamphlet or something that it shows your students or something. I still wouldn't post it, but you want to make sure you keep it, but if it's on your agenda,
Yeah.
then maybe you do post it. If it's
Yeah.
not something that's on your, been agendized, et cetera, then.
What I want to prevent is just a batch of anonymous letters getting entered into the agenda, because again, it's like, who knows where they're coming from? We could be flooded with anonymous
wouldn't do that.
letters. And so how do we, is there a way that we can? Or is that up to?
I think you
Dr.
should give
Adams?
the superintendent discretion to make
Okay.
that call.
So can we write that in a way that we make sure that that is taken care of?
I'm okay with it as it's written here, and I think it's safer. I think writing it would get us in more trouble
Okay.
personally.
Well, so this says agendas and all supporting materials for the regular board meetings are made available online to the board and general public at least 5 days prior to the board meeting. 5
Yeah.
days, that's longer than 72 hours, isn't
Isn't
it?
it? Yeah, isn't the
Yes.
Brown Act 72 hours?
72 hours.
Okay, so
We
we
do
should be
And I
consistent,
had
right?
highlighted that because, yeah, why do you,
I don't know.
it's putting a constraint on
Okay.
yourself.
I don't know
It's just
where it came from.
agendas and supporting materials.
right.
Okay.
72 hours. Board members may request hard copies of the online information, which I'm thankful for because.
Would you be okay if I'm looking from a practical point of view, instead of the R, should be, so it's a guide rather than a directive?
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe preferably, something like that, cause sometimes like our last meeting,
Right.
got them on, I forget what day it was, but
Some
stuff
documents might
happens
not
and
be
things
timely.
change and yeah.
But
So-
isn't this what we're striving for and we should leave it? Cause I would love for them to all come out at the same time.
It's always what we strive for, yes. Now, remember with the LCAP and the budget, we would have had to push it off to another
Yeah.
meeting and then had another, 2 meetings in June for that, 2 general meetings, right, regular. And so it's always what we strive for.
Maybe
Yes,
we put.
every
we
once
aim
in a
for,
while, it's
We
gonna
can just
happen.
put should be then.
Yes.
Okay.
And you want 5 days to be 72 hours?
72 hours, so it's
Yeah.
consistent with the law.
Okay. And the R, should, you want to make that should?
But it has to be, I don't know, you guys, if the law requires 72 hours, it shouldn't be a should, it's mandatory.
It's 72 hours for the agendas, right? The
72
supporting-
hours.
And the packet.
No, you can have things delivered at the meeting because
Or let's
sometimes
have it
a
two separate
contract may
lines
not
then.
be signed.
I think we should have two separate lines then. Agenda 72 hours, supporting documents should be 72, like staff will make every effort to.
Okay.
Yeah,
Or how about agendas must
yeah.
and all supporting
Which is
materials
true,
should be,
right?
forever, should be. I don't know. I mean, we could do two separate. That's fine. Two separate.
But then it gets tricky
It's
too.
clear. Yeah, you're right.
No,
Your way
because if
clear.
is it an agenda for a special meeting? Or regular meeting?
I mean,
This is regular.
I'm a
it's
fan of the
regular
should be
board meeting.
recognizing by law. I mean, that we have to do that because again, we're just agreeing to this, right? We're not saying like if we're, if I would be okay with just having just a should be and then we recognize that legally we need to do the agendas anyway,
Okay,
personally. But I also would be
I'm a-
fine if you want to split it to two sentences too.
I'm probably a no vote if we leave it as a should. I think it's mandatory.
You feel supporting documents are mandatory with the agenda?
Well, I mean, what distinction does the Brown Act make, Lou?
the Brown Act requires the agenda to be posted 72 hours in advance and
Okay.
24 hours in advance, but not the supporting materials.
Okay, so I'm okay with being consistent with that.
You could just take out the all supporting materials.
Or we could add that second line. I'm okay with that too, if everybody else wants to.
So how about this change here that says the agendas shall be made available online to the public 72 hours prior, and we have a separate line for,
Supporting.
yeah, all supporting should be.
Yep. Good. Everybody?
Yep.
All right.
Maybe at the end of this or something, or I don't know, when we review it again together, I don't know if that's gonna happen. It just seems like some of these things, if they're already in policy,
Exactly, yeah.
like, why are we even rewriting this? Like, we
Redundant.
already know, yeah. And we're rewording it, and we have that, and this isn't like an agreement amongst ourselves, like, we don't have any agency over this, we just have to do it, so. I don't know.
That's kind of.
A is relevant for sure, because we just talked about that. That's something
Mhm.
that was kind of in our. But then also, maybe it would be silly if in a governance handbook, we didn't have something about the Brown Act. I don't.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is, again, what would happen too if the laws change? I mean, I feel like if there's something that's legal that says we have to do something, it doesn't have to be in here. I mean, it can be, we can restate it. but-
Well, yeah, because then we run into that thing where it's like, oh, this says this, but how is it gonna get
Well, do we
updated?
put a comment that really just says, all
Refer back
agendas
to-
are prepared in alliance with in accordance with the Brown
I would
Act,
rather. that.
right? And
That seems really
And-
clean and good
For that.
And simple.
and timeless, because it updates itself when the Brown
Yeah,
Act. gets
I like
changed.
that. Yeah, yes, please, Linda.
Okay,
So you take,
So
type in an entire section? For me, B?
Yeah.
For B, yeah,
Yeah,
leave
huh.
A's good.
It's good.
but the supporting materials is an aspiration that they should be available.
Maybe we just don't
Good
need it
work.
at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Okay,
Let's not even go there.
should we just strike the whole thing and just comply with the Brown Act?
Yeah, agendas.
Okay.
Or, yeah.
Does your legal heart feel that's okay?
You're gonna comply with the Brown Act regardless, because you have to.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
this is really superfluous. Yeah, it doesn't do anything. Yeah.
Legal word, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so that is gonna be removed, not because you're not gonna do it, but because it's covered by the Brown Act.
And you're gonna say it's covered by the Brown Act in there?
Yeah. I'll say it'll be in compliance with,
In compliance.
Yeah.
yeah.
Please.
That's perfect.
Uh-huh.
What about this last sentence here? Board members may request hard copies of the online.
Yep.
What do you mean? Yep, we're gonna get rid of that?
No, no.
Oh, I want to keep that. And thank
keeping
you for
it.
making that an
Yeah.
option for us who still appreciate paper or
Yeah.
need it, I guess.
We need it. I need
It's
it.
Still my crutch from being a lawyer.
Okay, we do it.
I think my eye doctor appreciates that I'm trying to read on paper more than I'm reading more on a screen.
One minor question with C, since we made A president or clerk, C should be president or clerk and superintendent, or should just be.
Or designee, board president
Time
or
set it, right.
designee. No, I guess.
Just,
board
I would just
clerk.
say time
Let's
set
keep it
aside
clerk Because,
to
yeah.
plan meeting
let's keep
agendas.
it-
So we ready?
Consistent.
declined it or divided above.
Okay.
So I would just say time set aside to plan meeting agendas.
Okay, I'm sorry, Elliot, I was
Okay.
finishing
C.
that section.
No, so right there in C, just delete. My suggestion would be time set aside, then X from 4 all the way to time set aside to plan
yes.
meeting agendas.
Back to Laura's point about one-on-one meetings, I mean, I think I would be comfortable if we said, so see the last part in C where it said, this time is not used to circumvent the normal procedure
Ah,
for board.
That's actually the language right there.
Why don't we
Mm.
just say that about, like, have a section about one-on-one meetings and like, hey, this is not,
Well, or just put in the same one, time set aside.
I don't
to
know if
plan
it
meeting
falls under
agendas.
agenda prep and distribution though.
I see.
It
Okay.
could be its own one-on-one.
Okay, that's fair. I just don't know where it's,
But
where it
Elliot,
would
you want to
be.
go back to see what we were saying?
Sorry, delete 4, so see where it says time set aside, start with the word
Start
4,
time set aside, start 4.
all the way
Okay.
through superintendent will be crossed out. So just
Okay.
time set aside to plan meeting agendas,
Got it.
because we already defined what that was in A.
Okay. Is everybody good with that?
Do we want to detail that the hard copies will be picked up by trustees? Or does that not matter?
I think if Lucera really decided she suddenly wants to drive to everybody's house to deliver them, that would be fine too. We can set, I think we do that based on our,
Doesn't need to be in writing. Okay.
I like flexibility there.
We don't need to anymore because we have the beautiful lockbox now, right?
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Beautiful
Great.
lockbox. Yes.
All right.
So are we good with the way that looks up there?
Yes.
Okay, thumbs up on everybody.
Mhm.
Okay, good, good. Okay, moving right along. Board meeting preparation and attendance.
I would love to tie A back to one of our norms, which is respecting each other's schedules. I forget which one that was now. Let's see if I can find it again. No, it was on the other ones, but 6J is we are considered one another. Just to say, like, if we were to start doing meetings at 4:30 every time, I'm going to be late. So I can't agree to that is if it's done outside of, and I'm not just saying you would, but I just think it's,
Mhm.
we could say outside of normal business hours, like, I don't know how to clarify that, but
Which one are you referring to? I'm sorry.
board meeting A.
Got it.
You want to change it or just, I mean, it's like,
It's whatever.
all it says is, if you're gonna be late, let the board
Time.
president know.
Mhm.
Yeah, just a consistent punctual attendance is expected.
Yeah.
Like that, as long as we're being respectful of everybody's
Yep.
schedules.
I don't think we need to change it.
Okay.
It's just in there.
I
and
agree with
That's
Brian.
all do our best.
Other thoughts?
B is significant.
It is, isn't it?
Does that first sentence imply you don't do any outside research?
That's what it says. This is existing. I didn't invent this. This is
But-
existing handbook.
Yeah, I don't love that.
That's typical.
Is this typical, Lou?
It,
I mean, how realistic is that?
Feels limiting,
It's just-
yeah.
Not very real.
I tell you, I've seen this in others.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like,
Does it add value?
I feel like that should. I don't
It
know,
feels
just be
punitive, like
removed
somebody was
from-
annoyed at another trustee. And like, they were like, we're just gonna limit them because we don't want to hear about other things.
It might also be protecting though from people bringing, but that also
Mm.
deals with the earlier section from bringing outside interests into the, but I don't think that's necessary for us. Is what I would say. I would.
There's a balancing.
How can you
Mm.
limit someone's studies?
I think it's a balancing. If, obviously you need to be informed of decisions that you're making, important facts. But if 5 board members are going out and doing research and then not sharing that with the superintendent and bringing it all up at a board meeting, you're gonna have chaos. Okay?
True.
So you might want to qualify that if board members do that, they're going to share the research with the superintendent. So you're not, yeah.
But do we have an issue with this? Or, I mean, I don't think
I've-
we have an issue with
We've
it.
never seen it before. I think more to this point is that if we're asking for more information and we're given it, that it is shared with the other
With all
board
of
members.
And that already
And
happened.
we already do it.
Yeah, we have a system for that, so.
I think that's the substance really of B.
Oh, but the good part about B is the
Second
30
part.
minutes.
Look at, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
after the 30
It takes
minutes.
more than 30
got
minutes.
buried
And that's
in there.
already, and we kind of adhere to, I think we try to adhere
I
to
don't,
that.
I mean,
How about
perhaps it comes down to like, to trusting Linda too. It's like, she's not gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna let staff work 17 hours on something that Carolyn asked about. Just
Mhm.
is.
Aurelia.
So I think that's good in here,
Right.
because I have used that like as a thought. I'm like, wait, should I ask for that? I'm like, yeah, they already generated that report. I can just ask to see it, you know, type of thing.
Could I would suggest changing limit to focus. Board members focus their studies. That way we're not like,
Good.
Good.
That's
Just
a
like
great
a closed
word.
universe.
I
Yeah.
like
Nice.
that. That's really
They're
good.
great, yes,
Good.
Mm.
I do this, I do this.
yes,
Hmm.
perfect.
Okay.
When we look at E for a second, can we get there?
Are we happy with B? I mean, I would just say, I'm happy with B with that.
With B,
focus
I'm
and it.
happy with changes on B.
Is everybody good with B? Is there any?
So yeah, I won't jump to E yet, but I'm good with E or with B, I mean.
Do you want anything in B that says any materials will be shared with the superintendent?
Just need to change the pronouns.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
there's two of them.
Yeah.
Three.
I again would say that's something that we should all do. I mean, that comes back to some of our board norms. So I think, yeah, the no surprises. So I think we should be doing that under no surprises. I don't think it has to be here as well. Personally. So I think if I find something useful, I'm gonna send it to Linda to share with the board. And I think we all should do that under no surprises.
Okay, so are we done with B then?
I think we're done with B.
We're good. Okay. C, board members direct all questions regarding agendas to the superintendent.
Everybody's good with that, right? I don't
Board
think
members-
we always do that, but it's a good reminder that we should.
D is kind of silly to me to have to say, but
Sorry, Elliot, what?
sorry, D is silly to me to have to say, but I'm happy if people want to leave it in there. I'd be happy to strike it though too. Like, of course, we should be improving our knowledge about.
I think that had to be in there because of B.
Probably.
It's like, hey, you might, if you want, you can go learn more.
It's like all of it's gonna be ridiculous.
No, you must not, Elliot.
I know, right?
Must remain ignorant of all issues. Okay.
I guess for this group, I would be happy with B, I'll just say, but I
So,
don't feel strong.
so we're good there, and can we move on to E?
Are we dumping D or?
Do you want to dump it just because it's silly to say, or do you not care?
Why don't we just put it? Oh, geez, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know why it's in there. Why is that in there? It's
Because
like-
your studies were limited in B.
Now,
So we have another-
now, yeah, now.
This is
We're talking about
very- I'm so
general
very
matters.
honest and
not
Get rid of
about-
D. How
General
does everybody
matter.
feel about getting rid of D?
I would like to get rid of it. I'm
I'm-
not gonna die on the hill, but I would like to get rid of it just because.
mean,
E is in delete. Anybody else?
It'd be different if it said board members should improve, but
Yeah.
it's a may and like, maybe I will and maybe I won't.
Do you
I'm-
want,
like,
do you
yeah,
want to change it to should?
It's pointless if we're, yeah.
I don't.
I think we've got
Shorter the better,
three
shorter the
delete.
better.
Laura,
Without it.
Yeah, we can delete it. I don't.
delete. Carolyn?
Yeah, delete it.
Okay,
D is gone.
D is gone.
Good.
We all will do that on our own accord. We don't
E.
have to
E,
be.
so, go ahead, Brian.
Oh,
Well, this one's interesting to me because it's like, you know, that you could find something as a board member that might conflict with something that's happening within the board. And the way I read this, it's like, you know, you would not undertake an independent inquiry or investigation that could create conflicts of interest or compromise the integrity of the board or district. What does that really mean?
I mean, I would take that
Yeah.
as if maybe there's something happening in the district. something happened and you decided that you were gonna go and do your own investigation. You were gonna go talk to the person that it happened to or to the family and get their side of the story. And so, I mean, I'd say it's probably pointing more to that.
Yeah.
That's how I'm taking it, is that nobody would do that. Nobody would reach out or get a story from somebody that or really interact and discuss in detail an incident that may have taken place that might be under litigation, or the board might be just,
Mhm.
sort of. That's how I'm taking it. I like it in.
You like it in there?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I'm okay with it. I was gonna say without clearing it by legal, but I don't know, that might be overly specific, so I'm okay leaving that. That was just what came. to
I think
mind.
it's dangerous for board members to go on doing investigations. of
Well,
district
yes.
matters.
Period.
Yeah.
I
would
get
not-
that part of it, for
Yeah.
sure. It's like, we shouldn't be doing our own investigation, but if you find out that it's like, oh, you know what, there's been some underhandedness going on and money's being siphoned off, and it might undermine the integrity of the board, but the board's corrupt.
Wow.
Tell Linda.
We've
Tell
gone
Linda.
down that road. Yeah.
Well, but it's there. I mean, it's there, so I have to ask, but I'm
Well,
gonna defer to Lou. So
If
what
the
do you
board's
think?
corrupt, you go to law enforcement.
Yeah,
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
we have bigger issues.
Yeah.
good then. I'm good.
Okay. I think
I
that,
take this more as like in the community.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
okay. So are we good with this? Board meeting preparation attendance section.
This is where a one-on-one should go. If we're gonna put a C in, it should go in here, right?
Let's see if there was another area. Right?
Oh my gosh, this is.
Mission, I know ideas. It is. Calls, handling complaints.
Or would you put it?
There was a section in here about social.
I think that's why I liked our top 10 norms, because it felt
See.
so digestible.
Yeah,
And this is like, I mean,
Not-
yeah.
yeah.
So I would just suggest adding a G. It says
Okay.
one-on-one meetings should not be used to circumvent the normal procedure. for the board. Give directions.
Do you feel like that falls under the category heading of board meeting prep and attendance?
What else, what are the one-on-ones if not board meeting prep? We know the relation building, but we're doing it before the meetings, right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, they really should be, I guess, done before the meetings.
I just didn't see it, unless you see it elsewhere. I didn't see it anywhere else.
I was thinking it would be a standalone item.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
I'm
I
fine with
guess, I mean, technically everything we're doing is board meeting prep.
Yeah,
'Cause-
I think it would go here.
Yeah, okay.
But give me some language that you're
that. Okay,
thinking of.
so what I was just saying is one-on-one meetings with the superintendent should not be used to circumvent the normal procedure for the board to give direction. Should not be used to circumvent the normal procedure for the board to give direction.
Linda, do you feel like this is currently happening, by the way?
Feel that it is, but if there's a perception.
Oh,
out
your
there-
microphones.
If there's a perception out there that there is, then I want to be sure that we, have a process in place, right? That
Yeah.
doesn't
Correct.
allow for that. And yeah,
I would also, if for one-on-ones, limiting the number of one-on-ones that are happening. I don't know how often they happen, is it once a month?
I think we had started with 2 a month for those who wanted it, but I think in most cases we're doing, 1 a month. But I think once a month is a reasonable amount of time that, I don't know, I think that would be plenty unless anyone else feels. And again, I think, if we have those scheduled, if there's ever a time that there's something else that has to be addressed, I mean, you always, have that ability if it's a phone call or something, but, I think for the official one-on-one meetings,
Yeah,
once a month.
Monthly, so you get monthly one-on-one meetings.
and then preferably scheduled through Lucero so that it's
Mhm. Oh, yeah,
officially
sure.
happening.
And it's on the calendar and. oh,
It's
yeah.
on calendar and it's
Mhm.
not, I mean, even if it's just Lucero, I don't even think it needs to be you and Lucero because
it's
Lucero
normally-
controls your schedule anyhow.
Lou, just adding monthly before one, or do you not like that?
If you say monthly, it makes it sound like
Obligate.
other meetings could be used.
Got it,
So
got it, got it, got
we're
it,
Talking
okay.
about all meetings, one-on-one meetings,
Mm.
not being used.
Good point.
I mean, I hesitate to say it, but it feels like we're micromanaging one-on-ones.
Yeah.
So like, can we just leave it up to Linda? And if someone is asking you to meet too often, you would say something?
Mhm.
Do you currently have that? You don't have to say who, but like, do you currently feel like you're being asked to meet too much or that direction is
Not-
coming at you?
No.
So I don't know if we have that as
The perception is there. So
Right,
whether or
that's-
not it's happening, the perception's out there. So I would like to be pretty, like I said, I want guardrails up when it comes to one-on-ones to help with that perception.
So are you looking for like a posting of schedules too, where it's just like this one-on-one happened, this one-on-one happened?
Sure,
and so-
yeah.
That's actually a great idea.
Thank
It's just
you.
putting that in the
Nice
trustee
idea.
update.
Which I
It's just-
normally do.
She
She
does.
does
But
include
do you,
when she has
if I had
one-on-one.
3 one-on-one meetings with you, you'd have that in there?
No, I mean, but we could.
But she doesn't put the
Yeah.
name of trustees on things because
I
then it's,
could put, I could.
As long as
put
you're
them
not talking.
About
putting
what you
in there
talked
what you
about.
Talked about.
okay, yeah, you could do that.
And that would help create those
I
guardrails.
met with Elliot on this day, that's not a Brown Act violation.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it works for me and I think that it would, then there's a physical trail, I guess, an email trail of
Mhm.
sort of what's happening.
There's one in our calendars already because the meetings are scheduled and we get calendar invitations from Lucero and
It doesn't help with
That's- I don't
everybody
think
else.
hers.
I don't have.
You feel that the whole
need to
board
know
needs
my
to
board.
know.
you need to know when my one-on-one meetings are with Linda.
I mean, I think that was a suggestion that was being
Okay.
made, right?
I guess I personally don't need anybody in my calendar and I'd prefer to keep the arranging of my meetings between Linda, Lucero and myself.
I
What would be
agree.
Lucero and yourself, but
It's
what I'm.
the way I
guess-
do emails is I send them to L&L, the awesome team, and then they designate who is going to respond and that system works really well for us, as far as I can tell. So let me know if it doesn't.
I think personally, I think it's best through Lucero because she is your assistant and she takes care of your calendar. I'm assuming everybody else schedules through Lucero typically. And then I don't want access to your calendar, of course. What I'm saying is it actually, I like that idea of
Putting
saying,
it in.
of
the
just
Friday
putting
update.
who you've met with and yeah, I mean, I think that's great. It's really transparent. And we're discussing specifically what can and cannot be discussed. And I'm assuming that, the only time that someone's coming to the district office would be, or if you go for coffee or whatever, would be for the one-on-one.
I have no opposition to that. It's like, I don't care if anybody knows when you and I are
Mhm.
having a sit down or an
Right.
impromptu meeting or whatever it gets on the schedule. It's like, I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me.
Just a point of clarification. So Linda, I'll do what you want
Mhm.
us to do when it comes to asking for a calendar meeting with you. I was under the impression that we should be emailing you and Lucero. And that, because when I've done that, Lucero responds.
Right.
But I feel like I'm never putting Lucero in a strange position where she's then having to like tell a trustee yes or no.
Definitely more convenient if I'm copied on it, and I think that you all do that, right? I think it's that's kind of the process with it. But then you're right, Lucero responds, but she schedules all of my calendar invites, and that's how they land up on there. And so yeah, I think emailing us both is wonderful. That way, I'm aware of what the request is, and if I need to connect with Lucero if she's got a question for me,
Yeah.
makes it easier. But I think that's what we've been doing anyway, and so that
Okay.
nothing should change with that. And everyone's in agreement that that's what we want anyway, it sounds like. So I think
I'm gonna bring your attention back to G. The word should is advisory. not-
Mm.
So if you want it to be advisory, you prefer this. Or you could have a shall or may not. A shall or may not.
How about we do like we did on agenda preparation and we say superintendent are not used. We
Yeah.
just use are not or is not
Yeah.
used.
Mhm.
instead.
Or
One-on-one
Yeah.
meetings are not or yeah.
Will not.
Will not.
Are not is kind of consistent what we put in agenda prep item C is.
Good.
Or to give. Will not be used to circumvent the normal procedures for the board or to give direction to the superintendent. Correct.
I
Have
think
that
this
above.
is The line right here on agenda C says normal procedure for the board to give direction to
Yeah.
the superintendent. So I think we were copying the language from that item
I was,
to
yeah.
make it consistent. Is that what your idea was,
But
Ellie?
that's fine, I'm fine either way, but that would procedure should be procedure to copy the language about.
I do want to make sure that with G, that it's specific from what I was talking about before, that there are not tasks or directions being given to the superintendent during
So
one-on-one.
it should be,
meeting.
will not be used to do this. Or I guess or either. I'm okay with either of those.
Of the board to give direction.
Or to give direction to the superintendent. I just want to make sure direction and task designation is not, sorry about that, is not happening during one-on-ones. For any trustee.
Linda, do you feel it is?
I do not.
Okay.
Well, it's a good guideline for all of us.
I'm happy with
And
either.
it's a good commitment to make to the board that we all will not do that.
Fine. I'm just, you're very passionate about it and I want to make, I want to make sure that, I mean, like, this was the language that I, you know, obviously I hear you. I know this is important to you, so that's why I mentioned it. We could use this down here, but I also want to make sure that if Linda feels that this is happening to her, that we talk about it as a board. And so that's why I asked you that question.
Thank you for acknowledging that I do feel passionate about this, though. You're very correct. So thank you. Appreciate that a lot.
Are you all agree with G as it appears there? Are you, is G acceptable to everybody? This is a commitment to each other, remember. If one board member says, I can't live with that, then we're not gonna live with it.
I'm fine with it. It seems redundant because it's not happening, but if it feels that we need to call it out, then we can put it in there. I mean, I realize I have the power right now to say I'm not okay with it and it would take it away. But I'm not gonna do that.
Wait,
So
where's, if it's redundant, then we don't have to put it, I don't see where it's redundant, though. In the document, is it?
I
was there a
just mean
place
like
that
it's
was-
redundant because it's not an issue. So I'm not sure why we're putting something in here that's not an issue, except for that you feel that it is an issue.
I don't
And
feel it's an
so-
issue, but there is a perception amongst the community that perhaps it's an issue.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's okay, you can.
There's a whole bunch of stuff in here that is not an issue. And it's not an issue because it's in here. So I'm good with it being in here just to protect it from becoming an issue.
And it helps deal, if there is a perception, it helps deal with that perception. Right?
Okay,
If we're
yeah.
doing it.
Okay, sounds like we can move on.
Jen, how do you feel?
I don't need it, but if that's what the board's will is, then it's okay being in there. Yeah, I mean, we struck a D under the same section because we thought it was like, we already know that. I feel like we all are well aware that our job is not to assign tasks to Linda or any staff member. But if everyone else feels it's valuable, I'm happy to leave it.
And then how are we gonna make sure that
Yeah,
Like,
what's the system?
You,
wherever this rumor is or perception is, how are we gonna make sure that this actually helps that? Because in my experience, having it buried in a governance handbook isn't really gonna get the word out.
well, the good thing about tonight, as tedious as this may appear to be, is that we're going through it.
Yeah.
And one of the commitments you made is if one of you has an issue with another one of you, you're gonna approach that person and say, here's a concern I have. And you're gonna try to resolve it that way. And if it doesn't get resolved, then you bring it to the board president and you deal with it as a board.
The other thing it does is if there is the perception, you have a document to say, well, we know, we hear your perception. But let us tell you what our practice is. And you can literally give them a specific documented quote that says, because this is what we're committed to.
Yeah, we've made
Okay,
this
so
commitment.
we're
to
like
each other.
junior codifying it right
Yes.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, as we've gone through this whole thing, there are a couple of points I remember as we've gone through it too, where I've said, it's like, yeah, this is in here. I'm glad it's in here. We could do a little better on this particular point. I'm glad that it's in there, and it's a good reminder for us that it's like, this is in there, and let's think about that as we go through our meetings. Whatever the item is. So some of these things are good reminders for us too, that they're in there.
Okay, I like
And,
that.
And I, sorry, I mean.
no, please.
I think it's good to have because it makes everybody more aware when they're in their one-on-ones. Is what I'm saying being taken as a directive or a task that you're gonna walk away with and assign to somebody else? It's just something to think about.
I
because
still think
sometimes
that's Linda, though, Laura, like we're stepping into
Sometimes
Linda's
with-
lane.
If you're assigning tasks to
I'm-
somebody, that is not stepping in someone's lane.
If
That's
I'm
fine.
asking Linda to do a task and I'm assigning it to her, I fully hope that she says, whoa, Jen McNary, I think you're assigning me a task right now. And we clarify, or we explore it, or we do something else besides. I just can't imagine it happening in a way. It's like, I say do something, Linda goes and then immediately acts on it or tells a staff member to generate something that's time consuming. I just don't envision this happening, and I'm just kind of like wondering where it's coming from. Like what there feels like there's a lot of energy behind this. So I really would love to get to like the crux of what the issue is versus kind of a general statement of there's a perception, because I can tell you, and I guess we could all go around the room and say, in my opinion, I am not tasking Linda with anything. I am not giving any direction outside of a board meeting to anybody. And if I am, please raise the issue to me directly. And that's my 2 cents on it. And I would hope you call any one of us out if we're doing something that is out of our lane, because I do understand that tasking you is out of our lane if it's not coming from all of us, and never my intent. So I don't know if feels like there's like, we're talking around something.
I know, I feel like now I have a pebble in my shoe because I don't love the idea that there's perceptions and like rumors or whatever, and then there's like no evidence of it. So maybe in this moment, we can just say there's no evidence of it. I mean, but also it's like, I feel like if the perception is that I am giving Linda tasks, and then I feel like if I'm the one saying, well, I don't want this in there, then somehow like all of a sudden, like I'm guilty of it. And it's like, what the hell is going on? You know, like, what are we, are we, you know, there's also a norm we just agreed to that we're not going to believe things unless
Yeah.
we have evidence, and we've talked about it as a board. So like, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about having guardrails for one-on-one meetings. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay,
Specifically for all of us. And if you're taking this personally against you, then I can't control that. But I will bring up, Jen, you actually said earlier in this meeting, you talked about giving tasks during the one-on-one.
I
And
misspoke.
so
I misspoke. I do not direct Linda. I do not assign her any responsibilities. We have what I feel to be a productive back and forth conversation, and at no point have I delegated some task to Linda. I know the rules. I know I'm not allowed to task Linda with anything. So if I misspoke, my apology, but I think the energy that was brought to this issue got here before I made a statement. So I would love to go back and figure out what that actually is.
the energy that I'm putting towards it is I would like guardrails on the one-on-ones because they are business being done by the board with a superintendent outside of the public eye. So it's important that we have guardrails. It's important that we have rules and some type of understanding of what happens during those one-on-ones. I'll just stop there. I'm comfortable with G. I'd like to move forward with G with the understanding that we're all on the same page. I mean, none of us should be using one-on-ones to circumvent normal procedure of the board or to give direction or assign tasks ever, unless we have the support of a majority of the rest of the board. And if it's offensive or someone's feeling sensitive about it, that's okay. But it's important to me for when I have a one-on-one that everybody understands that I'm going to stay within that norm right there, and I'm not going outside of it.
hey,
Are we all good with G?
I don't know.
Okay.
Let's come back to it. I want to simmer on it.
I'm gonna
That's
put
fair.
I feel angry right now, so I'm just
Okay.
gonna simmer on it because it just feels like more of the same, like perceptions of this, or like there's behind the scenes or something going on. So I'm gonna sit with it because I think it probably is good policy. And I think for our district, in the past, we haven't experienced one-on-ones. So I think I think some folks are unclear or uncomfortable with them. So, yeah, so I'm gonna wait.
Okay, we're gonna hold on this one.
We're gonna hold.
Go back. I think it's a good opportunity for everybody to think about just what, because we've all had those one-on-ones with Dr. Adamson, for everybody to think about what the purpose is behind those. You know, I've not done many. It's like mine have always been really informational. It's like, I don't know what we're doing here. It's like, you know, what does this mean? Mostly they've been agenda related, you know, so, but I think it's a good opportunity for us to
Mhm.
pause on that and think about what it is. And there's
yeah.
clearly feeling that there are agendas coming in to the one-on-ones, and if that's happening, I mean, I'm of the opinion that if it is, that needs to not happen, but let's all think about it for a bit, because it feels like it's a big issue for us as a board.
Yeah,
right
I'm
now.
surprised it's an issue at all, but.
And
I mean, my preference would be to not have one-on-ones. They were never here to begin with. And I mean, it's not a big revelation. I am not a fan of the one-on-one because it's doing the public's business behind closed doors, and I'm not okay with
It has the
that.
potential for that appearance. Yeah.
well, it does. And
Well,
that's a
I
really
mean,
good
unless
point.
you guys are talking about your cats or whatever, I mean, you're talking about district business. And that's behind a closed door. And if it's not closed session and it's not in a meeting setting, then I don't think it should be happening. There's no way to track it. I think it should be an email. If there's a question or an explanation or something like that that's needed, I think it needs to be in an email that's obtainable if needed. So I think the perception of us meeting out at coffee and people see me sitting with you or sitting with Brian or sitting with Elliot or sitting with Carolyn or Jen, there is a perception. There's private meetings happening. It doesn't look good. And I would prefer that we didn't do it. I'd prefer it was through email only.
Why is it a standard practice in the superintendent world? Eric, can I ask you that question? Because maybe we need to go back and talk about the reason for one-on-ones.
Couple of things. One is to build relationships. No question about that. Other times just to educate board
Mhm.
members on topics that they may not have familiarity with. It usually starts off with the policy committee. You know, typically you bring the new people in to be on the policy committee, and you rotate that process so everyone's aware of the board protocols, the meetings, et cetera, along the way. So there's a lot of that. And also you get a chance to get a sense of, as part of that relationship building, what are some of the passionate projects that each board member has, because you're gonna have some of them. And so you get a chance to talk about them. I'm really interested in early childhood education. Is that something maybe we can put on an agenda in the future? And I think that's really with the basic points of it. The other thing that's important is that if we're going to do them, and you've started the practice, and so the next question is, do you continue them next year? But if you're
Yeah.
going to continue them, then she has to have your grace in being able to say, this sounds like something that we need to put on a future agenda item when you're asking her to do something or asking her for information, because it may be information that may only take 30 minutes to get it. But sometimes there is something beneath the request for that information. And she knows that. You're not just asking about this because you really want to know about it. And I want to know, are there other people in the community? Are there staff members who may have something that require me to do a full presentation on it? So for you, it may just be giving you the enrollment data. But for her, she's got to look at it, the bigger picture of saying, this is one board member wants enrollment information. I'm wondering what's out there that's driving that question. Do I need to bring my staff in to say, maybe we need to take a look at, why would a board member ask for this? What's the motive behind it? It may be very innocent, but as soup, nothing's innocent. Everything you ask has something behind it, and we have to decide how much energy we're going to put behind it, even if it's for you, it's just handing you a document.
How many districts on average would you say have one-on-ones? I mean, is that extremely common? Is it,
I think it's very common.
okay,
It's very, very common. In fact, either one-on-ones, two-on-ones, everybody does them. The difference is the frequency. I know superintendents who do it once a week.
oh, that's interesting.
Once a week.
There's cities that do them once a week.
Yeah,
There's,
yeah.
you know, it
Yeah.
goes all the way up Board of Soups. Everybody does
Yeah,
one-on-one.
so I know, I have, people I coach and work with, they do them once a week, but everybody does them because it's their way of also understanding where your thought process is coming, what you're feeling about this.
This is super informative for me. I'm glad
Yeah.
we're talking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. But I don't know hardly anybody who does it.
I would like to bring one thing up. So Carolyn, I'm going to bring something up because
Okay.
this came up at the last board meeting. I can't remember what specifically it was, but it was a task and I had made the comment, I wish I could remember what it was, but it's late. I had made the comment, is this going to make more work for staff? And your response was, never mind, I'll bring it up at our one-on-one. And that's the perception I'm talking about, is it gives this perception like, I'm going to meet you at my one-on-one and we'll just take care of it there. You know, and it was, so it's that type of a perception, I think, that we have to clear, because that was at a board meeting with a full room of staff and it caught my attention and I don't know what it made other people think. That could have been like, you know, someone's running the show in the one-on-one. So that's the bit. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I just mean it as like an example of how perception is kind of everything.
Well, and if I can jump in on that too, because it's like, so I watched on the flight back from Dallas to Monterey, I watched
Ooh.
the meeting, which that's that, boy.
You caught up.
Also, the best way to watch a board meeting is
The
on a
transcript.
flight at 1.5 times the speed, which normally is, where
I
it's just like,
agree.
oh, all right, so I'm watching that. But I'll have to say too, that was a little weird, where it's just like, oh, you know what, I have this question. But you know what, we'll talk about it later, and then we'll report back.
Got it.
Where it's just like, well, what's the question? It's like, what are we talking about here? It's
See,
like,
and I felt it's such a balance,
get
because
it.
it was like, we're running late on time and it's like supposed to be done by 10:45. And Linda had said that Laura had said she didn't want to extend the meeting. So I'm like, I will just not take everyone's time with this, because if I can flush it out with me and Linda, and Linda can tell me yes or no, or like, yes, let's bring it up, or let's do a trustee update, then like that, to me, this is like it's like an efficiency tool. The one-on-one meetings are
Yeah.
that. And I didn't realize that we have been using this tool as a one-on-one meeting, but that like the entire board isn't educated on what they're for.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's a really
Yeah.
good point.
yeah, I was very much a spectator on that at that point. When
Yeah.
I was sitting there in that horrible airplane seat, you know, and it's like, oh, I want to know what's your question. And it's like, I got to tune in later now to find out what your question is.
Well, I
It's
think
like,
then Laura said, well, who's going to be at your one-on-one? And I was like, Linda and me, 1-to-1? Like,
mm,
Because it was something that was going to tasks. It had to do with something, I wish I could remember.
Was this the Simpsons, was the school side?
Yeah.
Okay.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
I had a
and
question
so-
about those. Yeah.
But it was gathering more information.
No, it was about the budget. She had questions.
I had
Oh,
questions about the
yeah,
budget.
okay.
Why would they
For each site, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And so that was what it was tasking
Yes.
the staff with that. And so that's an ask for staff's time, more than a half an hour possibly.
No,
but-
no, not really, because what I had done was I had generated a question regarding the SIPSAs on the day of the meeting. And so I made it a choice. Okay, I'm not going to now rush the staff and say, oh, I have another question, because I didn't get it sent in by the deadline. So I just figured I'm just going to ask Linda at our one-on-one. And it was because, and so, well, I'll tell you, I mean, it's not a secret. Each of the schools had a wide array, one from $0 all the way up to 300 and something thousand dollars that it's going to be put towards the SIPSA. And I'm like, is that right? And so so that is an example of something I would ask Linda at the one-on-one. And in that moment, she might say like, oh, well, this is why. And I'd be like, oh, okay, thanks. It wasn't clear to me in the packet. Or she might say, I don't know, but it's important that we have that accurate. And then she might decide to ask staff. And then in that instance, correct me if I'm wrong, Linda, you would then send out a trustee update saying this and this and this and this is why. So.
But I mean, that could have also been in the, you forgot to ask, yeah. So anyway, it was the perception of like, I've got this question, but
Okay,
It's a fair point.
but like that, like, it's like, that's your immediate thought though? Is it like something shady is going on in a
the
one?
way it all went down, it didn't feel right. And it was like, oh, no, we'll take care of it in the one-on-one. Because, and my question was, is this gonna add on to staff's time? Like, I want to know what this is gonna do to staff time.
Well, and that leads me to my other thing I brought up today earlier is like, that's not our worry is staff time. Like, that's Linda's worry, right? Like, and that's why that's another reason why I have these one-on-ones is because it really curtails the little, side conversations and questions. And so it's like, I save up all month for I have a Post-it note and I write down like, oh, let me ask Linda about these things. And so I just ask them there. So that's like my thing. Like if Linda sends out a trustee update and I'm like, oh, actually, I'm more curious about this. I say, hey, I'm more curious about this. Can we talk about it at our one-on-one? And she's like, yeah. So I just have this like, it's just like a way to save time and talk. And then if it's something that's actually important and valid and not just me misunderstanding something, then she'll do a trustee update. So I think it's just, a good conversation to have.
It is, and I think just
Lou, you wanna
identifying
bring it back?
exactly what the purpose of them is. I think that wasn't clear maybe to everyone.
It
right?
wasn't
And I think
clear.
This helps. I
that's,
mean,
yeah. And
Fundamentally, I think. we
I
get
love
to a
the
good
fact that we're
place.
establishing that now and, everyone's got that same.
And I would say
understanding, common
because
understanding.
these are such a valuable tool, I would actually ask again if we can put it under its own item so that when thumbing through this, it really stands out that it's one-to-one meetings with trustee to superintendent or trustees to superintendent, because that's fine too if
Right.
two people come.
Yep.
Sometimes two people feel a certain way about something. If Elliot and Brian feel a certain way about something, they can ask Linda a question about it. That's totally
I
fine.
don't like
Like
it.
that.
Well,
I don't
the
like that.
I don't like it.
one, I think, yeah.
Careful.
Because I think when you put two people together,
That's
you have the ability to
alliance.
build an alliance, and that even if you don't mean to, right? Like if I, for example, every time, like if the agenda meetings, Brian and I talked with Linda and we asked these questions, like it would align us with information because she's not going to be able to convey exactly the same thing.
The
with
same
trustee updates.
concept of like, if you watch the same news channel, you're going to possibly be aligned with each
And
other.
potentially more because we're actually like, we're getting information, like the trustee updates is a good way to get the digest, but you're not getting the full.
Well, I think we should talk about that then.
Well,
If
we
the
should.
board's uncomfortable with that, like if McNary and I have the same concern, because guess what? That does happen.
believe
Surprise,
it.
surprise.
I believe so.
Do you then want Linda to meet individually with us? For us to ask that concern, or do you want her to save time and meet together? Or do you feel that it's just wholeheartedly inappropriate for a trustee to be talking to Linda outside of a board meeting?
I'm more concerned about any pair of trustees. I mean, we can't do it as three of us, of course, but even two of us getting together with Linda, even though in the interest of efficiency, I understand it, but it's like, my conversations, I've talked with Elliot about this thing, I've talked with Laura about this other thing. We don't talk.
Recipes, yeah.
So, but we will, recipes or whatever. But it's like when the thing that I like about speaking with Dr. Adamson directly without anybody else in the room is that it is unfiltered. I'm not worried about what somebody else is going to say. I can just, be my own blathering idiot. It's like, I'm thinking about this thing and am I right? Am I wrong? Can you share? Can you shed some light on this thing? And without anybody else interjecting, just I get to voice my concerns and ask my questions and not really have to think about what anybody else has to say about it. And for me, that's really important to have that information really without worrying about who else is in the room or being able to ask these questions that it's like, well, this sounds like a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And I can do that. And without somebody else in the room, that's really valuable to me.
Can I follow up on the question? Because I'm more concerned about the other side of it, I guess, is against this not intentional alliance building, but that it results in that. And so my recommendation for that is if you two have discussed an agenda item, so you're in the same place, or if you both have the same question that you sent in, that's where email is a perfect response to that, or the trustee document. Because once you two sit down together, there is an immediate bonding, sharing of information in a way that creates a divide, whether it's intentional or not.
What, you mean when we sit down with Linda as a pair?
Correct, correct. And I would think if you guys have the same question, I would request that. Now, if I knew Brian and I had the exact same question,
Mhm.
I would rather that be emailed to Linda and put in the trustee document. So we're getting this, everybody's getting the same exact information as you two would be in a shared room.
Well, I think that since you and Brian are open to not meeting together as a team for the agenda, I feel like that does. I think that like that is all in line and makes sense to me that if we want to ask Linda that like we don't have any two trustees meeting with her unless there is like, well, like you, not to point you,
Yeah.
but like Elliot and Laura might meet with Linda because you're on the city committee.
Correct.
So then it's like, is that okay? Or are we gonna say, no, you need to meet individually?
I think that is a board sanctioned subcommittee. So that to me is different than two trustees coming together to ask about something on the agenda.
And so if
And the
it's
same with
policy,
policy.
so then now it comes, so then it's like, which things are, it's the details, right? So like McNary and I are on the policy committee together, so that would be okay. But if you found out later that McNary and I were meeting about like parking lot striping, you'd be like, we didn't have a parking lot striping ad hoc, like why are they meeting together?
And to me, I honestly I'm not gonna go home and lose sleep over it, but I think it has that ability for you guys. Like if you did that, you could potentially come into the next board meeting with very like complimentary comments, more so than you would if you had just asked the question. And I think that gets us towards doing that board when it's two people, and it's not an agenda subcommittee, you're doing potentially board business outside of the meeting, in my mind. And it's not, again, subconscious, not intentional, but I think it has that ability.
So I want to bring you back just for a moment. Linda brought this in because she felt this was a way for her to get to know you. A way to establish relationships, to establish communication and those types of things. So I would say, I think she should have the ability and grace if she wants to continue with these particular guidelines just to help formulate that. At some point, if the board as a whole says, you know what, we don't want to do it anymore, then that's another conversation. But right now, I think as a new superintendent, it is very important that she has these.
I agree.
If I can add one more correction,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, Lou. It's just on, because the point that I think both of you two have said that Linda should be able to say this. There's an inherent power dynamic where we are her boss, right? So I don't think it's always fair for us to expect her. I do think it's good for us to have norms as well that we agree on, so that we're not putting her in an awkward situation where she has to do that. If that makes sense, because of that power dynamic.
Especially because she is new to the district. And so there are, there are dynamics.
But
that
I
are
now have
different.
your direction tonight to tell you all no.
Yeah.
That was part, Eric,
Yes.
of my evaluation.
That's a
They all
that's a
told me
closed
they
session
were-
item.
Linda,
You can't talk about your own evaluation. It's your evaluation. You can.
You're gonna talk about your
She
evaluation.
has the privilege.
Just teasing.
Yeah. As of right now.
It's like,
Yeah.
Wait for the next one-on-one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think this has
Nope.
been an extremely important and productive conversation. I want to thank you all for having it.
Oh my gosh.
And
yes.
it's really good. I wrote I'm gonna bring you back to G and H and see if G is okay after the hold on it, and if H addresses concerns that you can all live with.
I mean, I'm fine with H. I don't have, like I'm saying, like, I don't have to meet with, anyone on a thing, but I kind of don't know if I want to take away that agency from Linda.
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't that be Linda's choice? Or maybe she's hearing from that the board would be uncomfortable with it, so she wouldn't make that choice, and that's why we're putting it in writing? I
It
don't
could
know.
be hard for Linda to tell
That's-
trustees, I'm not gonna meet with you together.
I honestly feel, only because we've been doing it with the with the president and the clerk, and we really probably shouldn't have been. And for reasons you've shared, you've had concerns tonight. I almost feel like that should be a practice in moving forward, that we just agree one
trustee.
trustee at a time only. And only for that reason that I, really didn't realize, I know we talked about it in our last governance session to really stop, and we haven't, we've been doing it still, but I almost feel like it aligns a little bit. And I think that would also maybe make everyone, more comfortable, right, with just doing individual.
It's fine by me.
It's your handbook. It's your individual commitments. If
And remember, you're signing
one
off.
person can't agree with it, it goes. So,
So let's start with G. Are we comfortable with G, the way it's currently written?
I'm fine with it.
Laura? Work for you? You
I'm
good,
with
Brian?
G. Good with
Okay,
G.
let's take the hold off. Let's take a look at H.
I don't know. I think it's overly
happened?
specific. It's fine. I will support if everyone else wants to. I feel like us discussing it, though, like, I could see situations where like, what if we're meeting about soccer? Whether for our kids.
Well, it's not school business
School
then.
business.
Okay, that's fair. Okay.
But what if we both have the same concerns about the Spanish programming and it would be?
Yeah, I would rather. us
So
not do it.
efficient.
Okay, okay. then
You'd
that
rather be
clarifies it.
separate.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, that's good.
I do. I mean,
Okay,
just,
no, it's good.
Well, and again, it
Okay.
calls to mind one of the things that Lou had brought up, I think during the last meeting too, is that perception is so much of the game too, right? It's like, and what are people out, it's like, we all know kind of the nitty gritty here of what we're doing, but people outside of what we're doing don't necessarily. And so if it looks weird to people from the outside, we're already fighting a losing battle when it comes to perception. And so how do we manage that? And we can manage that. And it's a little clunkier, it's a little more time consuming to do it this way. It's a greater burden on you, but it also fosters an independence of thought. And,
Good point.
it gives us the ability to really speak individually about what our concerns are. And I think that's a great thing.
and again, I think if you guys align, send an email and then it comes trustee document, you guys, there's no
There's no
perception that
alignment.
way.
I don't, yeah.
No, but I just mean, but like, if we're chatting or like you said about Spanish, we could send, we could both send emails and then Linda could respond to both those together.
Yeah.
In the trustee document, but that way we're not in the room with her where we're.
Yeah, I typically save my things that are not emergent for my one-on-one. So I just have a running list and then when it gets time for one-on-one, I figure out what the priority, whether it's an issue on a board meeting coming up or something brewing amongst families, and then we run out of time every time. And I try to respect my hour.
And I know we're running the clock out here too, but for what it's worth, when we do our agenda meetings, we do our agenda stuff and we knock that out. And then we do our one-on-one. It's like that we really do split those things in two. It's just like, let's get the agenda figured out. And then, what can, it's like, what's eating at you or what can I help you with or whatever. It's like, but we really do split those things in two. To try to do the best we can. So Carolyn, you got your hand up?
I would request that this be its own header. And that it have a couple sentences at the top that defines the purpose of one-on-one meetings.
That's a great idea.
I like
And
it.
I think that staff
Excellent.
is due not to, well, we're as a board. Linda, would you be open to educating your cabinet or perhaps even the entire DO on what one-on-one meetings are so that if I come and bebop into your office and leave and everyone's like, what was that? Because we have such authority, there's always questions and curiosities. So will you educate them on what they're for? I would like that.
I think there's value in the similar conversation we've had here for me
Yeah.
to be sure that I'm having the same with not just my cabinet, but even I think the district office, right?
I
'Cause
think so.
everyone sees, the same thing.
Mhm.
So I think there's.
I just thought
value in that
everyone
as
knew
well.
what one-on-ones
And
were
even,
for.
I think our site administrators too, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Education is the key. Okay, we're all good.
Surprise.
all right. That was a big one.
Do we want to take a moment
Well-
for public comment at some point? Because our member of the public has been.
Well, we're
in
running out of
waiting.
time and the way it's structured is this is the whole big meeting, right? And then we move to public comment and then there's board comment after that. So we are running out of time. So it feels to me like we're at this point in the meeting where as much as we would love to get through all 27 pages, we're only at page 10.
15.
And
We don't have to get to.
if
15.
we want to move towards, and I think we all want to wrap it up by 10.
Yeah. So let's be done
So
with this.
let's
Yeah.
close it out on
And let's
page
hear from
10, open it up to public comment. Beth, God bless her, has been here since the beginning. And then any final board comment, and then we wrap it up.
Can I have one comment before we do that? Just that, would it make sense for us to go over this as homework and report back to Lou with any track changes? For the
I
next
think
one, or would you rather us do?
I like
Yeah.
the efficiency of that, but what I don't like is the dialogue that we miss and the issues.
Yeah, I
that-
mean, we drill down sometimes on individual
Sounds
words
good.
here.
No, that's
So I
fine.
think we bring it back
Okay.
on page 10 and a half
Mhm.
next time we do this.
Yeah.
So can everybody live with that?
I live with it.
All right, so we're gonna close down this part of this meeting and open it up to our member of the public, Beth Shamas.
And we have two online too. Yeah. But I haven't seen any hands up yet.
Who's, oh, good.
It's even monitoring on.
We are.
We are, okay.
I have
And
been.
You got a live
we
mic, I
got-
see the green.
But I don't know when people want to speak, so I don't.
No, it's okay. We can help with that. Yeah.
Okay.
I can do it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, good meeting. Uh, Very important.
3-minute going.
So just a few bullet points as thoughts as you were going through your discussions. Whenever a new board member joins the board, like Lou said, the trustees come back together and you go over this all over again. Because it's so important that when a new board member joins you, it's a whole new board. The other thing that came to mind was consensus building. When I was on the board and we had 3 new board members that were so different, and we had a very volatile environment. That was the one thing that we all decided on that would bring us to a working relationship, consensus building. So what that means is, like, when Carolyn's saying, well, I don't care. No, Carolyn. You have to come to a consensus. You don't care, let's work it out so that you can be okay with whatever the sentences or whatever the particulars are. So work on that, because that helps, because when you say, I don't care, it's going to come back to bite you sometime. So just keep that in mind. Goal setting should eliminate micromanaging. Here's a really important thing. You guys are talking about questions. Tell others why you're asking the question before you ask the question. Okay? That really helps. So when you have a question, before you start to ask it, say, this is what I'm looking for. And you give people a sense of where you're going before you ask the question. Oh, I just wanted to point, you do have page 8, you kind of glossed over C, it said, we are on time. Okay. And the last thing was board members. I like that page 10 on D. I like putting in board members are expected to learn general matters of public ed. I mean, that's, maybe you don't have to say that, but you've said a lot of things that I thought you didn't have to say, but anyway, thank you.
Fair.
Thank you.
Anybody else, any other members of the public?
Anyone online?
Anyone online? Otherwise, let's, I want to jump right in, but I'm not going to, Beth, because I have a couple of thoughts, but I'm gonna open it up to other members of the board before we close this out with any board member comments.
I'll just say I'm 100% on putting D back in with our expected. I'm okay either way. I agree that that's important. I just assumed with this board, we would all be educating ourselves. But good point. Right. And thanks all for coming here and being open and vulnerable at times and recognizing we are coming here for a common cause. We're not coming here to talk badly about even the surprise white airhead. Mystery white airhead.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee McNary.
I don't think I have anything to add right now. I'm still digesting.
Okay.
So, thank you, everyone, for your time.
Trustee Otmar.
Well, I'm glad that we're here. I'm glad that we can all speak candidly with each other because I think it's really important as a board that we can all be honest with each other, even though if it's uncomfortable or it's not what you want to hear. And I would invite the same if there's something that I'm doing that I might not want to hear. I'm okay hearing it. It might not be comfortable, but I'm okay hearing it because it's part of growth, and growth is not comfortable. Usually ever. So I'm just glad everybody's here tonight, and I thank you all for being open and receptive, and I'm glad to be here with all of you. And I think that we're doing a good job of making this district great. And I think that we're pretty cohesive. We might have our bumps, but I think in general, we really all have the same goals in mind. And that's really what it boils down to. So thanks everybody for listening and for being open to the things I had to say tonight.
Thank you.
Hearing me.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson, no relation.
No relation. Yeah, Lou, if it's okay with the majority or every member of the board, I think taking the recommendation from public comment, I'm fine with that for adding D back in the wording that was provided. That sounded good. And that's it. I'm excited for the next meeting when we go through the rest of it. So I guess we need to set that up, but I don't know when. So that's it.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
Good
Oh
night.
my God. All right. I got a few words. One, Dr. Andrew and Lou, thank you for leading us through this. And Dr. Adamson, again, it's like these are, I think sometimes tricky and sometimes a little painful, but as Trustee Otmar said too, it's like, you know, growth comes sometimes with a little bit of pain. But also, I'm going to quote from the movie Roxanne, I would rather be with you people here, and I've said this before, I would rather be with you people here than the best people in the world. So. And think about that for a second if you don't get it. But really, that I think this is unusual. I don't think boards do this kind of what I used to refer to as navel gazing. And I was so dismissive about it before, but I think it's important that we do this, that we really examine how we make this work. And it takes extra time and extra effort to do it. And, but as part of this process, we're not letting things fester. And it's important that we don't let those things eat away at us. You know, it's like, yeah, we got through 27, 10, what do we get through? About 35% or less of the, something like that, of the, I'm not going to do the math. We didn't get all the way through it, but we made great progress tonight. And I think that's important for us to recognize that we're all here and making that effort. And I think that we're doing this too, ultimately because we're all still here for the kids, and we're trying to create a board that functions well for our students and our families and our community. And that should not be lost on any of us here tonight, that we came together to do this. Ms. Shamas, sometimes it takes longer than we've allotted. So bear with us. I know sometimes we run longer. It's just going to take longer. And you know what? And if that's what it takes, if it takes longer to get it right, then that's what we're going to do. So all due respect to the clock, sometimes it's going to take us longer. And so with that, I think, Lou, you got a closing thought?
I just wanted to inform all the board members, I'm going to send you each a copy of the version that was up on the screen with all the changes shown. They're all highlighted in yellow. You can take a look at that, and the next time we set a meeting, we'll complete the process. So I think you're all great people and you've done a great job tonight, and it's not easy, but I think you're all are here for the right reasons.
I applaud everybody here who's here tonight, really. I think everybody did a really nice job, so.
I'm just happy we have at least a halfway through revised handbook that doesn't have, different names on other than, the group that's here. And that's huge progress as well. And just, yeah, thank you for being so committed.
And I'd like to say just briefly that you are the most courageous, brave board I've ever been around. As someone said, boards don't have these conversations in public. They don't. And for you guys to be bold enough, and it's painful. I was thinking about the book Speed of Trust as well as crucial conversations. And you guys are willing to have those crucial conversations, which means you have high, the stakes are high, opinions vary, and emotions run high as well. But you're willing to hang in there and stick with it. Boards don't do this in public very often. So you're pretty bold to be able to do this. So thank you so much. It's going to pay off for your students. It's going to pay off for your staff. It's going to pay off for your parents. It's going to pay off for your community.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. We are out of here. We'll see you all next week.
Good work.